Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Welcome, one and all, to the virtual circuit of the Americas. You join us for the World Endurance League, powered by VRRC, and I believe this is round 6, actually. Just off the top of my head, it is round 6, yes. And hopefully, last week, whet your appetite around Sao Paulo, good enough that you joined us back here to watch a little bit more of this endurance-style racing. My name is Jack Oliphant, and I'm joined alongside me by Scott Bugner, looking very, very proper there. Was someone putting pressure on you there, Scott, for that picture?
They were actually, yeah, they were. I don't like my photo being taken, so I had to kind of stand there and just look really awkward.
Well, you don't look awkward. You look great, Scott. Don't worry. Also joined by Rich Hayden on the broadcast, as per usual, who I'm sure will weigh in with his usual tidbits and anecdotes throughout the evening. You do join us, as we said, for round 6, which means we can bring up the calendar. Rich, in fact, why don't you take us through the calendar a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, we're at round 6. So we're at COTA, which is has split the drivers down the middle with regards to how much they like and dislike it. It's quite a tricky track. You know, there is a lot of technical corners on it. There's obviously some fairly big straights on it as well. It's a bit of a challenge. You get offline in some of those, especially through the S's, and you're going to lose a lot of time. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult track for some, I think. There's been a lot of practice put in by some and not so much by others. But I'm really looking forward to this tonight, and it looks like on the early stages that we've got a Mercedes on the top of the times at the moment, which is a bit different for us. Johnny Ogden's managing to put both the BMW drivers of Jack and Oliver behind him. But after tonight, we've got a break because next Wednesday we start our next main championship, the Cooper Cup. And then after the Cooper Cup, 8 rounds after that, we do the last 2 rounds of the World Endurance League, which is round 7 in Fuji, which I'm really looking forward to. And then we round it all off, round 8 in Bahrain on September the 11th.
Yeah, some really top tracks and great machinery. As you said, it's nice to see the Mercedes coming on strong. Also, first and fourth, actually. But we'll leave who's fourth in a little bit of limbo for the time being. We'll get back to it in a second. Sao Paulo lined up well like this. It was a BMW domination from Oliver Gibson, who came out right on the top, absolutely smashed everybody by about 1 minute and 10 seconds. He's absolutely, well, ruined it for the rest of the drivers, to be honest. I think he sounded bored himself. But it did seem that he was able to get... There we go. I was just checking who came second. It was Chris Blakey who came second and got driver of the round, I believe, did Chris, with some very entertaining overtakes. And Craig Curtis also in the running for driver of the round. Those two, Chris and Craig, were certainly drivers to be looking out for. They were filling our screens with entertainment and, well, making us lose our voice throughout it, basically. We also have a championship that does seem to be heating up rather nicely. That's appearing on your screen. There we go. With Jack Smith only 1 point ahead of his brother Oliver Gibson now. Jack Smith, who was running race engineer last week in Sao Paulo for Oliver, which is why he didn't score any points. But Oliver now, you know, they've shared the same amount of rounds, and with only 1 point in there, it's very, very entertaining. And it looks like they are extremely close. Again, I think only about half a tenth in it in practice. Joel Lask is in third, with Johnny Ogden, who's Rich mentioned before, is currently on top of practice. With Chris Blakey in fifth, rounding out the top 5. Andy Cowell, Craig Curtis, Eric Axelson, Josh Martin, and Ben Smith round out the top. You can see from Adam Lyle all the way down to Thomas Potter in 20th place then. We've had a fairly decent amount of entrants, a decent sized grid. It's slightly smaller today, which is a bit of a shame, but we're still hoping that plenty of drivers turn up for qualifying. It does look like we should have about 17, if not all of them. Not all of them set times in the practice and the hour just before qualifying, but certainly they are in the service. So we should have about 17 or 16 drivers, which will be very entertaining. Right, and we got one last page. There we go. Keys Wilhelms all the way down to Kenny Press, who unfortunately hasn't taken part in this championship, even though signing up and entering by the looks of it in the Lamborghini, who is full by the sounds of it, according to Josh. Right, Circuit of the Americas. We do go on an onboard with, is it Andy Carroll, Rich, again?
It is.
Andy Carroll, yes, fantastic to see what it's like to drive one of these GT cars around this famed circuit. So there we go, Circuit of the Americas, a circuit which did try and copy and paste the best pits of various different circuits in the world and just stick them on one track, which is extremely American of them. With the two that I can see, actually, to be fair, the most standout is the Maggots and Beckett complex copy and paste, and the triple Apex, but they've instead of the left-hander like it is at Turkey, it's a right-hander here for some reason. So just to try and, like, you know, copy their homework, but don't make it obvious, sort of thing. But we do go into qualifying. We've got about 15 minutes left. We see Oliver Gibson, who's currently on top of the timings, but they haven't even done one lap. Scott, as we go into qualifying on a circuit like this, Rich said that we have a variety of practice out there. People who have done nearly 100 laps or probably just over, I'm not entirely sure, and people who have hardly touched the circuit. What's that sort of do to the mentality? Do these people, these drivers, get nervous if they haven't done any practice?
I'd say so, yeah, because especially around here, it's quite a demanding circuit. It's quite a long circuit as well. So, you know, if you mess up the first sector, it's going to be quite hard to gain it back. But you know, just looking at Oliver through their message, as you were just saying, it's yeah, like I said, very demanding, very fast. Yeah, and you won't want to be going side by side through there. I can say that one for sure. But I'm sure some of them will tonight and put on a good show. But yeah, you'll probably be able to see who comes out on top, who's done the most amount of practice.
Yeah, well, I would suspect that Johnny Ogden, there he is on the screen actually, would be one of the drivers who has done the most amount of practice, because going top of the times in practice is something we haven't really seen from Johnny too often, Scott. But it's quite nice to see, isn't it? A new driver sort of getting towards those sharp ends.
Absolutely, it's a bit like watching the F1, isn't it? It's quite exciting when things change at the front. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good drive from from Mr. Ogden as well. But we know that you Jack Smiths and your Thomas Potters and your Oliver Gibsons. In fact, pretty much everyone on this grid is definitely capable of being in that top 5. It's just who can pull out a lap and be the best person on the grid in qualifying.
One driver who's not going to be towards the sharp end, that was at Sao Paulo, is Craig Curtis, and he is off on holiday in Canada, I believe he said last week. So if you're watching, and he did say he was going to try, hello, Craig. And,
he's definitely watching. He's already sent. He sent us a picture of his setup of how he's watching. So hi, Craig. Hope you're enjoying Canada, mate.
Yeah, and I hope you don't get too many cold shoulder looks over at you while you're watching the racing. Do try and enjoy yourself as well. Get a cocktail or something. I don't know what's going on in Canada at the moment, but I imagine it's probably relatively warm. Don't know. Let us know in the chat. Anyway, so Jack Smith with 2 purple sectors to his name in this lap. Sector 1, Sector 2. Oliver Ginston has just gone 3rd. The other driver in the Mercedes who was quick in practice, who was 4th in practice, was Thomas Potter, 4th again here in qualifying, although has just set a completely invalid lap going off the circuit all 3 sectors, so that's not going to be an improvement from him. Chris Blakey, a driver who again was very impressive. We mentioned him already in the broadcast today. Driver of the round, and we'll touch on it in a second of just how impressive Chris Blakey was, Brad, because sorry, Scott, I don't know why I called you Brad there. Because Jack Smith is about to come across the line, and he does set a pole position time. It was going to be all 3 sectors were purple. Thomas Potter has just gone purple sector 1, so we could see a change from the front row again. But before he finishes that lap, we've got a little bit of a while. So, Scott, Chris Blakey, very, very impressive indeed last week, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like I said last week. He did have a couple of incidents. He spun I think 3 times, maybe twice or 3 times. He kept his head and managed to pick his way through the field cleanly. It was close, made it exciting. And managed to get back through up into, I think you said, 2nd position from what I can remember. So yeah, it's a really good drive because it's very easy to lose your head in them sort of predicaments and kind of just throw it all away. But all Thomas Potter there locking up just there into the hairpin, and looks like he lost a little bit of time there as well.
Yeah, he lost the lap, unfortunately, because he abused track limits. So it's completely screwed him over, which is a shame, because as I said, his sector 1 was ballistic, to be honest. It was very, very quick indeed, but it was not going to count for anything, unfortunately, as we jump to Andy Carroll. One thing you noticed, Scott, in the actual onboard lap that we just got from Andy Carroll is the fact that that Lamborghini looked a little bit lively.
It did, yeah, especially through the was it turn 4, 5, 6, and even 7? The chicane. It looked a little bit oversteery there, so it'd be quite interesting to keep on board, or at least a little look on the race and see if they're going sideways. And we know Josh likes to go sideways, so. And obviously, he did mention last week that he had to lower the rear wing slightly to get a bit more straight line speed. So his car might be like a drift car in this race.
Yeah, well, all the way down in 16th. It's not very fast, no matter what he's done, actually. So we will expect him to... Well, it says 13th, actually, on the left-hand side, so maybe he is only 13th. But we expect him to go a little bit quicker, Josh Martin, at some point soon. Olivia Krzyzanowska has sort of not really set the world alight. That Lexus doesn't seem to be overly popular, Rich. Is there any particular reason why?
Do you know what? It wasn't chosen by anybody on the initial entry list. And then Olivia joined and she picked it. And there was a little bit of work done on the car to try and improve how it handled and how it drove. The funny thing is, our favourite driver coach, Jack Smith, I asked him to do a lap in the Mercedes, a lap in the BM, and a lap in the Lexus, and he did basically identical times in all 3 cars. So the Lexus is quick. You just need to know how to get the time out of it.
Yeah, and there's some people out there that can get the time out of anything, really, aren't they? And,
well, true.
They are the people that you hate the most because they're always naturally talented and they're always better than you.
Don't say that about my drivers. I love everyone.
Oliver Gibson is one of those drivers, though, who does seem to have put in the graft and is all of a sudden one of these drivers that can turn his hand to anything. And he's got 2 green sectors, currently sat in 3rd. He's got about half a second to find. I think he's going to gain, well, so far he's probably gained about 0.3 of a second over the course of this lap, which means it will put him nice and close to Johnny Ogden and Jack Smith, but maybe not quite pipping it unless he can find something in this final couple of corners now. Oliver Gibson, who really had it all his own way, made it quite a boring race for everybody else and himself, by the sound of it, whenever he came into the interview. He even set himself a challenge, trying to take that lyrics into as many answers as he possibly could. He's still in 3rd place. Oh. He's going to actually have to concentrate a little bit more this time as Joel Last decides to miss the pit lane. Have you ever done that, Scott? Just gone to half-heart, sort of go in and completely mess it up?
Only Joel would do that, eh? No, to be fair, not on this game yet. But I did an F1 once. I ended up hitting the wall and DNFing in my league race. So it is easily done, especially here because you come in quite quickly from the penultimate corner, and you dive in, and the next one, the pit lane really does sharpen up into the left-hander. So yeah, I'm still going to say only Joel would do that, but on the fly, yeah, I have done that before.
Well, on F1, was it on Canada by any chance? That's a pretty tough.
I think, do you know what? I think it might have been Canada. I think it might have been going into that chicane, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to stop here.
No, I was going to say, Canada's always a little bit difficult, I think, because it comes on you pretty quickly, and you have to slow it all the way down to about 2nd gear. It's very difficult. But we do see, where else have we got? Where else have we got a bit of action going on? Well, Thomas Potter's still in 4th place, not improving after he showed early signs of improving, but again, it's a completely invalid lap by him. Have you driven the circuit of the Americas that much, Scott? Is it that hard to get a clean lap? Because we're seeing a lot of invalidations. It's not just Potter. Adam Lyle also has just got invalid in all 3 sectors. Lee Piercy's invalid in 2. Andy Carroll's invalid in 2. Paul Laramie is as well. Johnny Ogden's just got purple sector 1, so keep an eye on him. But is the circuit in the Americas a notoriously difficult circuit to get the most out of without going illegal?
Yes, I can't lie again. In fact, keep bringing it up, especially on the F1. I got a lot of track penalties for that, just from the cuts, because it's so easy. Because the curbs aren't really high here, you really want to ride them, and you end up getting track cuts. And especially, like I said, through the last corner, the penultimate corner, you're carrying quite a lot of speed into it, and on the exit, it just pulls you out wide. And I always thought that the first corner here, turn 1, was really difficult because it's like you go kind of going uphill, and it's a really blind left-hander, and it's really hard to really nail your turning point here. So again, that'll be an interesting one just to see if you're probably going to see a few people locking up and going wide there because it's a really difficult place to turn in and get your braking point pretty much perfect.
Yeah, no, turn 1 here is actually based on another circuit, just like everything is here. But I cannot remember. I used to know. I cannot for the life of me remember what it is. So I'm going to research it in a second. But I can tell you that Johnny Ogden is going quite well, but his 2nd sector, or he was going quite well. 2nd sector was really nowhere near it, unfortunately. He was about a second off, which ruined all of his run, and it's given the impetus to Jack Smith, who went green sector 1. Not quite as quick. He was a 10th off Johnny's, but he's gone purple sector 2. So we could see a real extension of pole position here by Jack Smith, and Johnny Ogden will have to charge up and do it once after this. A lot of people in the pits, Scott, and we're wondering, is that going to be a lot of people changing tyres? Does that make a big difference here?
It does, yeah. I think it makes a big difference anyway. You go really in that way. As long as you can get the tyres back into their optimal temperature and work in order, it does make a big difference. Especially the last couple of championships I've done here, well, not here, but with VRRC, you kind of do maybe 3 push laps, 4 if you can get away with it, and then you come into the pits, you take a quick sip of your drink and have a deep breath, and you go out and do it all over again and hope you can go a few tenths quicker.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you sort of need to, as you say, build yourself up with, and as soon as you've got those fresh tyres on, that is normally when we see all the time get lost. Quite a lot of people here tonight, Rich, which is always quite nice to see, isn't it? We've got the World Endurance League breaking up the major championships. Probably not going to mention it too much, so I thought I'd bring it up now. It's a formula that seems to have been quite popular.
The World Endurance League?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thomas Potter. I was about to say he went purple sector
again.
Yeah, gone wide, exactly the same place.
No, it's been really popular actually. So it's something different. We normally, as you know, we run championships 8 weeks in a row. This one being, lasting pretty much the whole year from January through to the middle of September. The format's been quite good. I had a quick chat with a few of the drivers the other night about how we're going to, move on once this is done in September and what we should do next, and they're all really keen to do something similar. So I'm planning. I'm sat here scheming and planning on what our next endurance championship is going to be. It will start in probably January next year. But yeah, we're in the midst of planning how we're going to improve on this one.
Well, it's a bit of damn good one, that's for sure. Jack Smith did end up improving and is pole by 0.3 of a second. Thomas Potter invalidated sector 2 and 3. Just can't seem to find that braking zone to actually give him any chance of getting into the top 2 rows. And he's got 0.9 of a second. It doesn't seem that his actual pace, if you can string the lap together, would be that far off. But you've got to get the lap together. It's no good complaining about your theoretical, is it, Scott? You've got to be able to actually get out there and get the lap done.
Absolutely, yeah, and I kind of found, without giving away too many of my secrets, is I now turn my kind of delta screen off, because I think when you're looking at your delta and it's like, oh, you're 2 temps up or you're 3 temps up, you put yourself under a lot more pressure, and then that's where you end up making mistakes and stuff like that. So a bit like I think it was you, Jack, that said last week that or someone I was speaking to last week said that they used to turn off or tape over their rev counter. It's the same thing with me. I kind of just look at it too much, especially at a track, when you're looking at you're going to be quickest and you're looking at it and you go, okay, I'm 2 temps up, and then you just put too much pressure on yourself sometimes and you end up making mistakes. Yeah, and it's very easily done. It is very easily done.
Yeah.
Well, it is very easily done, like you said. My dad actually used to. I said that I used to chape over the race delta every so often, and my team would just turn it off because they get frustrated at me. But also, my dad had this tendency, instead of the delta or anything like that, he would want to know exactly how fast and what rev range he should be in, like actual speed, miles per hour he should be going in each corner in. And he would come in and my brother would say, "Oh, you're supposed, you're doing well through there, but you could go a couple of tenths quicker." My dad would say, "Oh, well, what speed is it? I'm going at 64 miles an hour. Should I be going at 71 miles an hour?" And my brother's like, "Why are you looking at the speedo going into a corner? Just if you can go faster, go faster. Why are you looking like maybe you go faster if you look up at the corner instead of looking speedo?" So yeah, it can be very frustrating for drivers who do it naturally, sort of thing. But driving is not a natural thing. Humans are not. We're all born to be able to potentially run. We're not all born to be able to drive a car. We have to learn it, and that's where the practice comes in, isn't it?
So are you saying that a Flintstones type car would be the perfect fit for us then?
I'm saying that humans probably would find that more natural to get on with than having to press pedals and turn steering wheels.
Joel would still miss the pit entry, even in that.
You would, you would, yeah. But it is true. It is a bit of a weird thing, isn't it? That you sort of get in there. Not everybody can do it. Hence why driving instructors probably earn so much money. Jack Smith went green sector 1, purple sector 3. Not very good in sector 2, which means he wasn't an improvement on his pole position time. Johnny Ogden has been knocking on the door in the just like the postcode lottery, and all the Labour and Conservative people that keep knocking on my door as well around Leeds. But it doesn't seem to have been able to get it together either. But it does set up what will be quite a nice race by the looks of it. Scott, and actually I'll come to Rich first. There was restrictions on the BMWs previously, but there's been an alternate a difference again, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've increased the restrictor to 20 on the BMW, which has brought it back into line with the other cars. It's got a really high top end on it, and it gets there quite quickly as well. So and also it rides the curbs very well as well. So putting those 3 things together meant that it was destroying the times compared to the other guys. So we've added a restrictor, and after Jack did some laps in it, and I can see that it's in line now with the Merc and the Lexus, we were happy.
Yeah, that's when Jack reveals he was sandbagging in the testing, and all of a sudden he turns up in the race, and when he can't do anything about it at that point and decides to put it on, do 2-minute and 3s or something stupid like that. Typical Jack Smith fashion. He's far more honest than that, Elaine. I realise that. Don't worry. I'm sure he wasn't lying or sandbagging. But I am quite impressed with Jolly Ogden and Thomas Potter. I'm excited to see if that will that will sort of heat up the battle at the front. Even though Oliver and Jack may well have something to dice with, Scott, which is always quite nice, isn't it? I mean, you've been dominant in championships before. It can get a little bit dull, can't it, once you're just lapping something for 90 minutes. You want a little bit of spice in there.
I wouldn't know, mate. I've never been that far ahead in front.
I'm trying to be nice to you, Scott.
No, absolutely, yeah. And from what I can see here, the top 4 are now separated by 9/10, which I think is roughly what Oliver Gibson was in front of second position last week. So the top 4 are, covered by 9/10, and I think the toe on this track is going to be huge. So I think you'll probably see a 3 wide, 4 wide, hopefully. Make it interesting, but yeah, it looks good. It set the race up it should be a close race, and yeah, I'm not going to put it out who I think might be a dark horse because I don't want to jinx him, but I think it's going to be an interesting one.
Well, don't worry, I'll ask you in a minute, and I'm sure I'll get an answer out of you eventually.
I think we're going to get a few drive-through penalties. Looking at all of these track cuts in qualifying, I have a feeling there's going to be a few drive-through penalties in the race.
That's a pretty good prediction, actually. You're right, there's a lot of track cuts out there. We'll see, and we'll hear from the top 3 in about a minute's time, because we're going to go. Well, qualifying complete. The top 4 separated by 9/10 of a second. And I get to speak to third place driver in that one. A driver who I spoke to quite a lot last week in the form of Oliver Gibson. Third place, Oliver. You may well have been bored last week. I don't think you're bored this week.
No, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, I have no idea where those two have got that pace from. It's, I mean, what was it? 2:05.4 was pole, I think?
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is... Oh, that's quite a lap, so... they seem to have a bit of a gap on me, but it all depends on the race, doesn't it? I mean, higher fuel loads, stuff like that, tyre wear factor in, and obviously in this race, compared to usually, we have pit stops, so see if I can make anything work in those, but yeah, it's not going to be as easy as the last week.
No, well, so far, it's definitely not been as easy, has it? But Rich is actually predicting that there may well be a fair few track cuts and drive-through penalties. Is that something that you found a little bit tricky in practice in qualifying?
Yeah, definitely compared to last week. I mean, there's quite a lot of runoff on this track, especially on the inside of corners. I mean, you can get a whole car on it, so obviously it'd invalidate your lap and it would be a track cut, but you can get your whole car on it if you wanted to for some reason. But yeah, so this week it's been quite tricky to tackle the track limits and also be fast. I think I did get an invalid lap in that quali session. That probably tells the story. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep it clean, stick some laps in, and hope for the best, I think.
Is it harder or easier without a race engineer putting pressure over your shoulder?
I don't know. It's probably a bit. It's probably easier because sometimes it can be distracting, but it is quite helpful. If you want to find out what your gap is and things like that, when to pit, stuff like that. So I think it's a bit less stressful, but I think it's easier when you don't have anyone in your ear, because you can concentrate on it and you're not having to listen and, you know, switch your ears off from the car to your engineer and all of that. So yeah, it's I will miss it. I did mention I did say we should try and do a Google Meet, but I'm not sure Jack particularly wanted it, so we're going silent for this one.
He can say whether he wants it in a couple of minutes' time, because he's in the he's in for an interview, obviously. You are, I mean, it's still a decent position, isn't it, to be in? You said that you love Sao Paulo. What about the circuit of the Americas as a track? Do you enjoy driving it, or is this a bit of a painful one for you just to get through it?
I do like the track. It's definitely not, you know, Sao Paulo is a top 3 for me, so this one is probably not that high, but I do quite enjoy it. I mean, the first sector I think is like amazing. I think it's one of the best probably in the world, so I quite enjoy it anyway. The last sector's a bit tricky, but try and work around it. I do enjoy it. It's just getting the lap together is so difficult. I mean, especially as we said before with the track limits, it's like you've really got to be so like precise on it. And sometimes, well, when you're flying around trying to push your hardest in quali, it can be quite tricky and quite stressful on in your mind, really, because it's like, you know, you want to go fast, but then if you go wide, obviously you get track cut. You don't want to, you know, you got the hairpin before the back straight. You need to get a good exit off that. So there's so many things that you need to do compared to Sao Paulo. So I enjoy it, but I'm not sure many others do, from what I've heard.
Well, I can tell you just before we let you go that well, Thomas Potter did have purple sectors up his sleeve, especially sector 1. And if it wasn't for the fact that he was outbraking himself at the end of the back straight, he looked like he could trouble yourself and Johnny Ogden as well in the theoretical lap time sort of thing. So it's not just forward you have to start looking, is it? You got rear view mirrors to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, you know, I was looking at the practice before the live timing. I was like, oh, me and Jack have got this, and all of a sudden, I think this evening they've all just it's all been a bit scary, really. So can you be my engineer? Because I mean, I did not know he was on purple sectors. So
trust me, you don't want me as an engineer. You'll end up taking 3 pits and a drive-through penalty 7 times. Right, we'll let you go, Oliver. Good luck for the race. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, obviously my parents. I don't know if my mate's watching, might be Robbie. He did a fun race probably last year in the escorts, Ford Escorts
cool.
around Goodwood. So unfortunately his wheel is broken, so no more for him. But yeah, and then fun in the hop cavern, obviously, as we said last week. Get yourself down there, have a pint. Jobs are good. And
where is it in the country?
It is. Well, it's in Howden, little town. It's sort of the River Humber is sort of towards the end of it. So if you got Hull, just go east, pretty much.
It's hard to go east from Hull, to be fair, but it's
Isn't it west? Isn't it west?
Not east. It's in East Riding of Yorkshire, so I was like...
Yeah, I was going to say, so if you go to Hull and just go to the rest of the country and not the sea, it's somewhere there.
It's somewhere, yeah.
Brilliant, Oliver. Good luck for the race, and we'll speak to you in a bit.
Yeah, cheers.
Right, next up is somebody who has not frequented the driver interviews after qualifying too often, but a driver we're very excited to speak to. And in fact, I'm going to give the honour to Rich Hayden speaking to Johnny Ogden.
Hi Johnny, congratulations, 2nd place. How was that qualifying session for you, mate?
It was good. I think I put myself on the back foot by putting my fastest lap in on my first flying lap.
Yep.
The pace, I think I had a bit more in me, another maybe 2/10, but I just couldn't hook it up for whatever reason. I just couldn't do it. But I'm excited. I mean, this is the highest place I've ever qualied with you guys, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, that's congratulations, mate. You've done really well. Which part of the track are you liking, and which part of the track is the one that you're finding more difficult?
I think that they can bin off the last 2 corners. I don't think we need them. They're horrendous. I hate them. But the rest of it, I mean, wind back to yesterday, I was really struggling. And then I just put a few more laps in and just watched some onboards and stuff like that. And I just kind of learnt it a bit better. Now I do feel fairly comfortable around the track. Again, it's just those last 2 corners.
Good, good. And how are you finding the track limits?
Fine.
Good.
fine.
Yeah, I know a few people have been having problems with them, but practice does make perfect on that. So, tell us about what's going on in real life racing for you at the moment, Johnny.
So I'm racing in Focus Cup. Well, I guess racing. I've been breaking down in Focus Cup. It's been a bit stressful, but we've been doing good. I was at Alton Park this weekend, just gone. I had to DNF. I didn't even start. I DNS'd actually the first race. So that means I had to start from the very back. Out of 20, I got to 11th after only 4 racing laps because the rest of the track, because we got safety car and red flag. So
Right.
I did, and I was first in AM class, so that was pretty good.
Good. Well done.
And then, thank you very much. And then a few weeks ago, I was in the Philippines where we're racing a Formula V1 car around Clark International Speedway.
So
which we got.
you're going to have to excuse me on this. Going from a Focus at Alton Park to racing in the Philippines is a little bit of a jump. Do you want to explain to us what's going on there?
I guess I forget it's like kind of been normalized to me now. So a team called Ribbon Arc, they messaged. Well, we had talks on Instagram just about sim racing, and then they had an opportunity for me to go over there and race a Formula V1 and a Yaris Cup car in a 12-hour race. So I jumped out of the V1, jumped into the Yaris, jumped out the Yaris, jumped into the V1 in the same race. So we did a full practice Thursday, chilled Friday. I qualied as Saturday and put it on pole. 6 overall, but pole in class. And then we got by the end of the race, by the end of the 12 hours, we were 3rd overall and still 1st in class. So, and then the Yaris was starting last, and then as a team we got it up to 3rd in class. So pretty good results, to be fair.
Congratulations, mate. Well done. Okay.
Thank you.
Is anybody you want to give a quick shout out to before we move on to our pole position interview?
I'm going to quickly run through these very quickly.
Go for it.
Phoenix Sim Racing, thank you very much. Bar 11, thank you very much. Renegade Painter, thank you very much. Late Night Coffee, thank you very much.
Oh, well,
Big shout out to them. Big shout out to everyone watching at home as well. I hope you enjoy the race.
cool. Well done, mate, and good luck in the race. And we'll let you get back to your prep. I'm now going to move on to our pole position driver who interview. Take it away, Scott.
Thank you. All right, Jack, congratulations. That was a decent qualifying session there on pole position. How did it feel? How did the car feel?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I watched Ollie do the last race, and I was like, I need to get back into it now. I need to go for it. So, yeah, we were practicing a fair bit. I really like this track. Last sector's a bit, not massive fan, but the rest of it I love it. So, yeah, probably explains the pace, to be honest. But yeah, I saw Johnny was like quick all of a sudden, and I was like, okay, maybe I need to just like go for it. So, final few laps, I just sort of acted like the track limits didn't exist, and sort of just hoped it was within.
They don't for racing drivers anyway, do they? Track limits don't exist.
Yeah. So I just sort of went for it, and luckily, like the first sector was like unbelievable. It must have been like just in track limits, and I just sort of went for it and just prayed it was, and I didn't get a cut. So, yeah, we were chilling there, and then I think I was about 2 tenths up before I lost it all in the hairpin and I took the back straight. So, yeah, but yeah, I just kept on pushing, and it was really good. But yeah, the car feels okay. It has a few little snaps here and there, and it's not perfect, but yeah, it's good enough for this race, I think.
Good. Because I was just going to say, obviously, you mentioned the hairpin. Obviously, it's quite a few people in qualifying were out breaking themselves and just not quite hitting the apex. Is it quite a hard corner to pick your braking point out and get it turned in?
Breaking point, not so much. It's more the ABS and how you use it. Like if you catch the ABS at the wrong time, it'll just push you wide, and it's quite tough on that. So yeah, I can brake at the same point like on 2 different laps, and one I'll go wide and one I'll actually make it around the corner. It just depends on how you're braking, really. But yeah, it's just something you have to look out for, and watching that. I know Rich mentioned the slowdown zones and stuff when you go wide. There's all sorts you need to look out for on this circuit. So I've just been sort of figuring it out and getting that time down. So yeah, we'll just have to see how we run in the race. I'm gonna try and hold off Johnny for the lead into T1, but it's gonna be a bit tough because it's quite a wide corner. But yeah, we'll see what happens after T1.
Good. We're looking forward to it anyway. two more questions. Quick one. Are you going to do a Google Meet with Ollie, Oliver, or are you going to keep it to yourself and see if you can win by 1 minute and 10 seconds this time rather than 1 minute 9 from Oliver last week?
They don't do it in real life, do they? They don't have Google Meets in real life between drivers. You don't see Max Verstappen and Perez on that.
You never know.
Guys, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We've got 30 seconds till race start, so I think we need to let Jack go.
Yeah.
Good luck.
No worries. In a bit.
Right, well, have a chat with all our drivers, and I may well have hogged Oliver for a little bit too long, is potentially the reason. But it's always nice to hear from all three of them. The likelihood is we'll probably be hearing from them through the race as well, because of course we do like to bring drivers for a quick chat. But well done to Rich and Scott for conducting the interviews as well. Right, so Jack Smith is on pole position, Johnny Ogden alongside him in Oliver Gibson, but the rest of the field line up with Thomas Potter behind, and I can't get through to it because the lights are on and we're already racing here in the Circuit of the Americas. Jack Smith, who gets a pretty decent run off, but Johnny Ogden is looking up the inside. Oliver Gibson looking to try and sweep around the outside. Thomas Potter throwing a spanner in the works. Ogden almost clipping the back end of Jack Smith, but he had to duck out of it before contact was made, and Smith doesn't get the start that he was hoping for and that he wanted, leaving everybody else to try and trip over themselves as they go through the first sector. Pretty much side by side, they now delve into single file line with Johnny Ogden, Oliver Gibson, Thomas Potter the way they started. Adam Lyle is 5th place with Chris Blakey in 6th, which I think means that Adam Lyle has overtaken Chris Blakey. And Andy Cowell moving up inside the top 10, with Lee Piercy falling back down to 13th. If I sound like I'm out of breath, it's because I very suddenly am. So, I mean, Brad, a good start there. Not Scott. Brad, sorry. I don't know why I keep calling you Brad. Scott, it's a very good start, isn't it? With Oliver Gibson, looks like he's trying to make a hard overtake around the outside.
Yeah, it was very close going to turn 1. I thought Mr. Ogden had the overlap there, but Jack braked nice and late and got it in, and yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. But it looks like Oliver Gibson's got, as I said, the toe on this straight is going to be phenomenal, and he just got cut off there. But it's a good defending there. But coming up to the hairpin, we know that this is quite a hard-braking zone to pick, so this will be quite interesting.
Yeah, it didn't squeeze him too tight as Potter, who we know doesn't like this braking zone, looked at the inside, and I thought actually he was going to send it far too wide. Chris Blakey and Josh Martin went a little bit too wide and lost a couple of positions as a consequence. Joel Lask, who's a driver we haven't really mentioned actually apart from him screwing up the pit entry, is up to 6th place. Not the best qualifier from him. We do expect a little bit better. A little bit fearful there from Thomas Potter going into that braking zone. Scott almost collecting the foot lock.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I used to find it quite difficult to call it the pick, so Thomas has just got to get it right a couple of times and he'll just start to get the feel for it. But looks like Jack's just got a 1.5 second lead on this first lap, but it's a long race, and we know, we saw from Chris Blakely again last week, just keep your head down and keep your head and keep the patience, and you soon start picking pace up. So it'll be interesting to see if Johnny and Oliver maybe work together to try and catch up Jack.
Yeah, that's will be the sort of long play, probably, won't it? That they're going to need to try and act on, because the longer they squabble for, the further away Jack's going to pull along. I wonder how long it's going to take him to. Is he going to screw his tyres over? Is he going to just be able to put those qualifying laps in time after time? I don't know if you saw, Rich, if Jack or Oliver or Johnny or Thomas were any of those drivers that put a lot of laps in.
Yeah, Oliver and Jack have done a lot of laps. They do their own private testing sessions. They don't generally jump in the online server, practice server, because they like to keep their cards close to their chest. But there has been a lot of laps. Thomas Potter has done, I think, over 200 laps practice, and that's showing in where he is right now. So fair play to him. But as I said earlier, I think we are going to see a number of drive-through penalties here for track limits, but let's wait and see. Yeah,
it's looks like we've seen a lot of Thomas love in the chat, as we normally do. Apparently our commentary audio is extremely low, apparently, according to Tom Singleton.
Yeah, I've turned it up since then.
Right, fair enough. But also, Catherine Potter's saying that they've been on potentially doing a lot of those laps for Thomas. So 200 laps in total, maybe 198 of them were Catherine Potter while they were at school. Which should be fairly impressive. A 2-minute 10 is not bad at all. We'll get them on the grid next, I'm sure. A lot of love as well from Max Wright and Catherine Potter. And people like that for Phoenix Sim Racing. So always nice.
From what I see, it looks like Catherine's getting her own simulator put together. So maybe maybe we're going to see 2 teapots on the grid coming up soon.
Well, if they want some kit, then I am contemplating selling mine. I just can't be bothered to put it up online. I know.
Shameless advert.
I know you did such a good job putting it together, Rich, I haven't used it anywhere near enough in the past 12 months to justify it being there. So I need to get rid of it at some point. But that's another day anyway. Yeah, shameless plug, as you mentioned.
Shameless.
Very well. 1 minute. Sorry, 1 minute. 1.6 seconds is not the lead that Oliver Gibson bought out for us last week, Scott, but it is still a pretty dominant one. And if you are Johnny Ogden, you are probably sat there thinking, what do I do to get that back?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Oliver was, I think, nearly 3 seconds in front after lap 1 last week. But Johnny, is a real life racer. He knows how the tyres will work. He knows when the tyres will be starting to go off and when they're on their optimal temperature, and he can push. So, the gap hasn't really, it's fluctuated slightly. It kind of went down to 1.3. They went back up to 1.6. Obviously, it just shows that the car's strength. Well, that was very, very close there from Oliver Gibson. Very close. But yeah, like I said, it's just where the cars obviously have their different strengths and weaknesses. So it looked like for me that the Mercedes was quite good in the last sector, but the BMW obviously down this straight and coming into the sector 2 looks like it's just that little bit stronger than the Mercedes. But it all kind of evens out throughout the lap, which is really good.
Yeah, no, it is, and I'm not distracted here or anything like that. Rich, I'm obviously trying to do my best, but I do see there's a bidding war for my kit. So
I just noticed that myself.
We got £300. 301 is the current bid. You can get the Fanatec base for 301 quid. There we go. It's no, I'm kidding. I won't continue to do this, but it's not a big gap that Jack Smith has managed to pull out. But Johnny Ogden, to be fair to him, is not exactly looking in his mirrors, is he? He said that Sector 3 is potentially the strongest point for him. It does seem to be telling the truth, really, because over this sort of sector we've been watching him now, he's pulled about 0.3 of a second on Oliver Gibson. Yeah,
it looks like he has pulled out a little bit. He's actually gained on Jack as well by about 2.5 tenths. So, yeah, it looks like obviously Sector 3 is where the Mercedes is really quick, or quicker, shall I say, than the BMW. Yeah, it's just about keeping these laps now. We know what Jack's like. We know he's a very, very consistent, very good driver, and Oliver's exactly the same. I haven't actually, don't think I've raced against Johnny Ogden before, to be honest with you. So it's really good to see a new name up there straight away, and who can put, take the battle to the top guys who I've raced with for a couple of years now, who I know are very, very good, and probably a little bit quicker than me.
Well, yeah, don't worry, they're all quicker than me. You're all far quicker than me whenever I've tried to jump on any of these things. I haven't actually gone onto the practice server ever in VRRC because I didn't want to humble myself, to be honest. I didn't want to sit here and talk a big game like I have to. It's part of my job, and then actually be humbled beyond belief when I actually jump on, and then my opinion weight just goes down the toilet. But I'm actually stopping soon, so it doesn't really matter if my opinion weight goes down the toilet here. So.
Well, I was on. We've got a separate server set up for the Cupra Championship, just doing some testing on the car today. So I was testing for round 1 at Pascani, and I did. I was pretty happy with my lap times. I was fairly tidy, but I thought that's a very decent lap. And then Eric joined me to do some work with me on the setup that we're going to be using for the championship. And on his literally first flying lap, went 1.6 seconds quicker than me. So yeah, and it's that talking about humbling moments. That was definitely a humbling moment for me. Fortunately, he watched me, and I'm like, who's the driver coach here, you or me? But fortunately, he watched me do a couple of laps, and he's quite experienced as Piscani, and I gained another 0.7 of a second while he was watching. But yeah, that was talking about having humbling moments when you get some of the really fast guys coming in. It's that was never truer than earlier on today.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it, when you and me go and do the simulator days and stuff like that, the events, the simulator days, and wherever we go sort of thing. We're always quite smug, aren't we? Because we're quite easily the fastest drivers there. And the rest of them are just like, they get 10 minutes to go on a sim, never been on a sim before, and you think, oh yeah, well, we're much better than you and all that sort of thing. We teach them or whatever, and all of a sudden you realise we're not. It's like, it's just a ridiculous sort of step up when you get the likes of Eric Axelson and Jack Smith and basically most people on this grid, to be honest. I can also confirm that £302 plus a Freddo is leading the bidding war, so I'm a big fan of that. It's better than a pack of fridge raiders, Dave. I'm sorry you lost that one. But yeah, 302 plus a Freddo, can't ask for worse than that. Adam Lyle in 5th place. I mentioned that he got past. Who was it that he got past? Actually, Adam Lyle, did he qualify in 5th place? I don't think he did. I thought it was Chris Blakey that was up there actually, but Chris Blakey seems to have had a bit of a nightmare. Yeah. Dropped down into 8th, but Adam's right on the back of Thomas Potter now, and there is Chris Blakey on the back of Paul Laramie. Not for too long. Chris Blakey wedges himself at the inside there, and Josh Martin looks like he's got a run, Scott.
That was a really good move, actually. I think, Paul defended well there and just left, Chris enough space to get on the inside and didn't look like any contact. There's some wing mirror banging coming down the straight between the two Lambos. So hopefully they picked their breaking point right, because they're about to go 3 wide into the hairpin. And Josh looks like he's about to do.
Oh my days!
It was a bit of a tough one there. It was just a little bit too late on the brakes there by the looks of it, but it's a shame there, because that's actually going to be a really good race. As Andy Carroll then picks up the pieces and says, "Thank you very much for those 2 positions for free. Thank you."
I'll tell you what, if I had sold my my wheelbase for 300 quid, I would have put it on the fact that there would have been contact going into there and made a lot more money. Because, frankly, it was far too... I mean, Martin, he was basically on the white line, wasn't he? And he was still trying to outbrake the other 2 drivers. And it's just, yeah, three can go into 1 in that corner, but you have to be extremely precise. And we've seen how hard it is in qualifying to get that braking zone right. And to have to adjust it if you're 3 miles to the inside than you normally would be is even harder. So Chris Blakey drops down into 9th and is now calling all over the back of another Lamborghini, but this one is piloted by Andy Carroll. Adam Lyle has got past Thomas Potter further up there as we were watching that little melee. We do have a change for 4th position, but as we see late on the brakes up the hill, I tell you what, I sort of don't rate the circuit in the Americas that highly all the time, Scott, but braking up there, overtaking into the first corner, is very, very good, isn't it? Because you can brake so late going up the hill.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you kind of scrub off quite a lot of speed when you're on the brakes. And it does look like to me that the BMW is pretty decent on the brakes. But it does look like Mr. Blakely's in a Lamborghini sandwich at the minute. He's been overtaken by one. He's had contact with another. And he's behind another one now. So he's got a Lamborghini sandwich at the minute. But we saw this last week from Chris, and I'm sure that he'll keep his head clear and he'll pick them off one by one. And I'm sure we'll see him back up to the positive end of the grid. But again, the gap for the lead just gone out a little bit there. But I'm still looking at the sectors on the gap, and still in sector 3 that it looks like, or the last sector, that the Mercedes just gains a little bit on the BMW and pulls away from Ollie and catches Jack. But Jack's obviously very, very strong through the first 2 sectors, which is just giving him that extra little few tenths a lap.
Have we lost Jack? Is he there? You there, Jack? Yeah, looks like we've lost him. Okay, I'm sure he'll be back soon. But no, it's interesting actually that Jack was kind of like hovering around the 1.3 to 1.7 gap, but it really looks as if he's starting to stretch his legs now, and it's not because these two are fighting, are they? So maybe he's just got his rhythm.
I'm back, and sorry, I am back. Sorry, I was going to have something really insightful to say, which obviously everybody would have loved, but obviously it's gone by the wayside now. Yes, I didn't actually catch what you had there because all of a sudden all audio went down for me. So, yeah, Jack Smith. I think we were talking about him being very consistent, and Scott, it's very hard to be that consistent, even over 15 minutes, let alone the next hour and 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, it is definitely, and it's very easy to just take your eye off the screen for a split second, and you've missed your braking point, and you've lost half a second to nearly a second. So you have to be very, very precise, and keep your concentration levels very high. And we know how good Jack is at that. Like I say, I've raced against him for numerous years now, and I don't think I've ever seen him make a mistake. So he is very good. He is very, very good. But I think the battle's definitely going to be hotting up between these two in second and third, because now, Oliver Gibson looks like he's just starting to stretch his legs as well, where he's getting that gap under a second. He's keeping it there as well. So I think we'll have a little race between these guys in a minute.
I think we just saw someone else go off in the background. I'm not sure if they were back marker or whether they were Thomas Potter again. I'm not entirely sure. I can try and keep an eye out on that one. But Potter certainly struggling with braking zones. Might have been him. I sort of recognise the car in the background a little bit. But tell you what, an easy way would be to get YouTube up and see a little bit of a replay. No, I can't quite see that one, unfortunately. But yeah, Craig Curtis saying loving Scott on COCOM. Scott, you got a little bit of love in the chat.
Oh,
That's always nice.
It's always nice. Yeah, it's not often I get compliments this day and age, but yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much, and hope you're having a great holiday.
And Craig coming to us all the way from the west coast of
I know.
Canada this evening.
I know I've gone worldwide.
That is an awfully long way away, actually, isn't it? To be fair, Craig, I hope you're enjoying it. Finally was able to get on the YouTube chat, apparently. And shout out to all the Phoenix drivers, yeah, including Adam and Potter, who are having a good scrap. Unfortunately, that seems to have calmed down just a touch, doesn't it, now? But we are watching the battle that's currently the closest out there on circuit. Johnny Ogden's doing a great job. He had a lot to say, and to be honest, we don't speak to Johnny that much, do we? And Rich, by the sounds of it, you did the interview with him. He had an awful lot going on in the real world. Yeah,
so he's racing in the Focus Cup in the UK, but he's also been doing some stuff over in the Philippines as well, and he's done quite well in it, I have to say. So, you know, good luck to him, and fair play to him for getting himself over there as well. So, yeah, he's a great guy. He's fairly new to us. He's only been here for I think a couple of championships now, but hopefully we'll see a lot more of him in the future.
Yeah, I don't want COVID to affect my tone here, but it's not an insult. It's literally, it is honestly a question that I'm interested in knowing how strong and how active the motorsport community over in the Philippines is. Because it's not something I've ever heard of, to be honest. I didn't even know they had a motorsport series, so it'd be quite interesting to chat to Johnny about the strength of the field out there, the activeness that they have as well, because most of the places in the world, the motorsport scene is actually struggling a little bit, so it'd be interesting to know what it's like over in the Philippines.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get him for an interview at the end of the race.
Yeah, as long as these two don't make contact. And Scott Bugner, it's difficult when you're in these situations to sort of eye up what you want to do. If you're Oliver Gibson, you didn't obviously have much of a race last week. This week you've got a good race on your hands. You want to catch up to Jack Smith if you potentially can, but you know you've got an hour and 13 minutes to go. It's constant mind over matter, isn't it, here?
It is, yeah, and like we keep saying, it is a long race, but it's probably quite frustrating for Oliver, because he probably thinks, you know, he's not miles quicker, but he's just that couple of tenths quicker around, I'd probably say 60 to 65% of the lap. So he's gaining, and then just coming out. To be fair, in sector 3 this time, he's actually stayed and kind of gained on Mr. Ogden there. So that was good lap there from Oliver. But yeah, it's difficult because I'd rather be the chaser rather than being chased. I'd like to put people under pressure. And it's very hard when you're in Johnny Ogden's position to, you know, just look in your mirror once and just, you know, miss that braking point by a split second and leave a gap, and someone like Oliver will be straight up the inside and say thank you very much.
I'm gonna make a bit of a prediction here on setup. I'm just looking at the top speeds of all the drivers. Johnny Ogden's top speed is 161.2. And Oliver is 159.2, so he's 2 miles an hour slower. And by the way, Jack is also 159.5. So I think that Johnny's running a lower wing on that Merc, which is potentially why he's getting caught up middle of the lap and then stretching his legs on the straights.
Well, that's crucial, isn't it? Because it means, Scott, that you can't really be overtaken into the best overtaking opportunities, is it? Because you can't. Gibson's always going to fall off the back of Ogden going into the heavy brake zones that we're going into now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, here he's just pulling. You can see by the timing there, he is pulling away, and Oliver's just not quite being able to get close enough to outbrake him. He hit the curve there, nearly ran very wide, but yeah, not being able to get close enough into the hairpin, and it'll be the same coming over the main start-finish line and going into the first corner. He just won't quite have, unless he can get a phenomenal run out the last corner. He just can't quite get close enough at the minute, but he's just got to keep putting Johnny under pressure and just see if he'll crack. But he's doing a really good job so far, Johnny.
What are the set of options that you have here, Rich, in the GTs in the World Endurance League? Because obviously we run a semi-complete setup or whatever you want to call it when you do
Semi-fixed.
the major championship. Semi-fixed setup.
Yeah.
I knew it was in there somewhere. Yeah, but here it's a bit different.
It is. It's fully open. So every single thing that you can change on that car in real life, you can also change in that car in this race online. So all of the damper settings, everything. So it adds another dimension to the race, because obviously in real life the race drivers give feedback to the engineers and the engineers make the changes. Well, in here the drivers are having to give themselves the feedback and make the changes themselves as well, unless they have a race engineer, which I don't think many of them do. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of time to be had in the setup on these cars. So it looks to me like the Mercs are running a slightly lower wing than the BMs.
Yeah, it's interesting, that, isn't it? From a race director and organiser's perspective, what are the advantages of running a series with open setup, or running a series with a fixed setup, or semi-fixed setup, and everything like that? Why do you choose to do one or the other?
So what we know.
And what does it mean as well, semi-fixed sort of thing? What are the likelihood is they're going to be able to fiddle with?
Yeah, so in our sprint championships, which are 25-minute races, 2 times 25 minutes, the emphasis there is more on a sprint drive for the drivers rather than a tactical race. So because they're shorter, and we don't want drivers having the extra effort of trying to go through all of their settings on the car, what we do is we lock out we do a setup for the car, something that's fairly neutral across all the tracks, and then what we do is we lock out parts of those setups, so we don't allow them to change the damper settings, or we don't allow them to change the camber and the tow. So that gives more emphasis to the drivers on actually the driving. However, in the endurance championships, what we like to do is make it a little bit more strategical. So we've obviously got the pit stops. Some of them sometimes we've had 2 tyre compounds or 3 tyre compounds, and then the other thing on top of that is obviously having a fully open setup, so drivers can really play with the how the cars handle.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? I think it's one of those things where, for me, if I'm going into a championship and I don't know much about setup, a semi-fixed setup is something that's really appealing in comparison to an open sort of setup. So if you're new to championships, you're new to sim racing, everything like that, it takes away a lot of that stress, a lot of that unpredictability, doesn't it? And that's quite good for entry-level races.
Yeah, absolutely. But we also have drivers that enjoy the tactical and the engineering side of it as well. So, for example, Stu Vickers, who runs Phoenix Sim Racing, who obviously have a number of drivers within our championships, he's very much an engineer, and he loves to tinker with the cars, and he loves to get the best out of the cars by changing the setup. And he obviously does that for the drivers that he's entered into this championship. But like you said, in the more sprint races, it's a little bit more newbie friendly, where people are just really wanting to concentrate on their driving rather than the tactical side.
Yeah, no, for sure. As I said, if I was jumping into a championship, even now, having been in the world for quite a long time, I would definitely think about a semi-fixed setup championship. Right. Talking of championships, Adam Lyle is making the teapot go for a very late lunge. Scott, that was late. He actually, for this time, made the braking zone, didn't he? A really good move.
It was a really good move, yeah. He dived in late, got the move completed, didn't run wide on the exit, got a decent run out the hairpin as well, and by the looks of it, if he's going to stay ahead, it looks like Adam's just getting the toe, but it looks like, yeah, it's a really good move there from Mr. Potter, and made it stick, and he can now try and focus forward and see if he can catch up the 9.1 second gap he's got to Oliver Gibson, because we know he was quick in qualifying, but obviously it was just stringing the lap together. But it looks like now he's just started to get the feel of things and get that braking zone exactly where he needs it, and hopefully now he can put his head down and go for it. I just want to mention as well, I don't know what happened, I mentioned to Rich after qualifying, Brad Smith did 3 laps in qualifying and didn't actually set a lap time, and he's quite a way back down in 15th position, so I don't know if he's got a problem or not.
Yeah, it's a shame whatever's happening to Brad Smith, isn't it?
I think I can shed some light on that.
Go for it.
Brad was downloading the track as we were in the driver briefing.
Right. Classic.
So,
that's,
given how difficult this track is, that might explain why he's lagging pace.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, hopefully we'll see him a little bit stronger as we go into the Cupra Cup, which actually, Scott, I wanted to chat to you a little bit because well, frankly, the Coupe Cup is obviously very different to the GTs, very different to the BMWs, to the point where it's obviously front-wheel drive. And yeah, what are the differences? We've spoken about the differences between sort of fixed setup, semi-fixed setup, and all that sort of thing. What are the biggest differences that people? Why? Yeah, I should really think these things through before I open my mouth. Why do people like front-wheel drive over rear-wheel drive, and vice versa, basically?
I don't know, Jack, because I can't do rear-wheel drive at all. I'm no good at it. It's a good run here out of the hairpin, actually. Just change the subject quickly. It looks like Oliver Gibson's got a run down the straight now from Johnny Ogden. He could be getting a side draft as well. It looks like he's hopefully going to get the move made into the hairpin, but it just depends if he can pick out that breaking point and not run too wide, and Johnny can get him on the switchback here. Yeah,
well, Johnny, we know, has a higher top speed. Rich has already pointed that out, but can't do much about getting to the apex when there's a BMW parked in the way, and Oliver Gibson does make that move. Sticky finally gets himself up into second position. It's only taken him 25 minutes, but there's going to be overtakes. Oh, big slide there by Gibson. I actually thought that was an accident, but actually I think he was just putting himself online. Let's go back a little bit to the subject we were just on, Scott. I mean, you said that you can't do rear-wheel drive. You struggle. Why do you struggle with it? What characteristics are so different with the front wheel to rear wheel that may find that it's so difficult to deal with?
I think it is just driving. That's a very good move.
Again, because of the Chris Blakey's interrupted us once more with a brilliant little cutback on Paul Laramie. Every time I want to get your thoughts on that, they seem to want to make some kind of overtake, but I think we're probably a bit safe there. Sorry, Scott.
I think it's just driving style. I think, I like a car that's really nimble on the rear. And front wheel drive for me just suits my driving style. You can kind of, you can get the car pointy and the rear kind of turns for you. Whereas rear wheel drive, we all know that, as soon as that car just starts to snap, you have to lift off and try and correct it. Whereas a front wheel drive, you can keep your foot in and you kind of, I'm a lot more comfortable with having a car go sideways with front wheel drive. Obviously, I'm used to it in real life as well. And that's why I feel like that's a very good move from Paul Lamb. Is he going to make that stick? Oh, that's very close. But once again, these two have given each other great racing, bit of door bashing, but it's been very clean, and they've given enough racing space for it, so they won't be in your stewards room on a Monday night at the minute.
Well, not yet.
you couldn't get a cigarette paper between their door handles then, could you?
No. It's there was quite on the apex of the first corner though, Rich. I felt like there was a good bit of room left by Chris. He didn't squeeze that one out. He sort of could understand what was going to happen with the Lamborghini and left just enough room for it to happen.
I have to admit, I was surprised at how late Paul dived down that inside, but he got it stopped. So fair play to him.
He did indeed, yes. But he didn't get it stopped for that one, did Chris Blakey? We could see the Lamborghini have a little bit of a nicer run. What is the Lamborghini sort of top speed looking like? We mentioned the Beamers and the Mercedes before.
We are looking Paul Laramie's 156.5, Andy Carroll 158.6. So slightly down. So they're obviously running a bit more wing. It's a loose car, so that is why they're running the wing. But it was quite a funny comment from Andy Carroll the other day to me, which was we were talking about obviously the restrictor on the BMW, and I was saying swings and roundabouts, tracks will come to each car, and Andy said I'm still waiting for the track to come to the Lamborghini, whichever track we're going to be at. And I did remind him that the opening round at Losail was pretty good for the Lambos, but I think the guys that had the Lambo, I think they fell in love with the shape and the sound. Maybe not so much on the performance. Maybe they need to do a bit more testing.
Yeah, that's always the classic problem with the Lamborghini, isn't it? It looks faster than it actually probably does go. Looks like it should be the best car out there with aerodynamics and everything, whereas the BMW looks like a bit of a brick as it runs through the air, but it's not always the case, is it? And I have to say the noise, I think, personally, the best noise, I can't hear it on the stream, but in real life, is the Mercedes, actually. It's a thunderous car, isn't it? It feels like the earth is opening up around you.
Yeah.
Only bettered by the Bentley.
Yeah, I miss my AMG, I have to say. The sound that came out of that thing was phenomenal, and this AMG actually, even online on the simulation, sounds amazing too.
I was going to say, when you got the BMW X5 instead, I think we were all a little bit heartbroken there, weren't we?
I cried a few tears, but Yeah, let's see what comes back. Let's see whether I get another AMG in the next year or so.
And then all of a sudden we'll be getting AMG championships coming out of
Right.
our ears at VRRC, won't we? It'll be A class, B class, C class. It'll all be just running through over the course of 2025. We're getting a good run here by Adam Lyle, caught up to the back of Potter. He hasn't been dropped, has he, Lyle? He seems to have had a lap or two where he's a touch weaker, but Potter still has mistakes in him, like we've just seen, Scott.
Yeah, I thought he'd just got his braking zone, just where he needed it, but it looked like he made a little mistake there. And Adam Lyle was very quick to say thank you and pop back through. But we know again, if Thomas can just get that consistency back again, he managed to catch up with Adam and pass him and put a little gap. So, fingers crossed that he can do that again. Just keep his lines right and keep his braking points right. And even if he just follows Adam for a couple of laps just to see where he's braking, he can try and kind of copy him.
Right, we got our first pit stop. By the looks of it, it's Walton in the pits. That is a scheduled pit stop, I'm guessing. Rich, you've seen no penalty out there?
No, I didn't. I've not seen a penalty come through. It is a little early for a scheduled pit stop, but we don't know. We've not been watching Sam, so we don't know whether he was stuck behind someone and he's decided to jump into the pits from a little bit of a strategy point of view. So I am a bit surprised to be seeing a pit stop this early.
Yeah, it's we're 50. Well, just under an hour now. We're probably expecting pit stops at around the 45-minute mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just coughing. Then I had to switch myself off. Look, Thomas is behind Adam again. When did that happen? We've missed that.
We caught it. We caught it. Thomas went too deep. Where in his favourite corner to go too deep on, and ended up Lyle just sort of managed to take advantage, hit around the outside, and he's got that position. But that is Potter's biggest failing at the moment, isn't it? Is the fact that his consistency. He is getting faster on one lap pace, but it is that consistency that we haven't quite yet seen develop yet, have we, Rich? Which is the next thing to come. But once it does come, he's going to be a bit of a scary force.
Yeah, his best lap so far is a 2:07.2, which is slower than what he was in quali. Obviously, he had less fuel in quali, and we know he had a difficult first few laps of the race. So his tyres are going off now. So it'd be interesting to see what his pace is like after the pit stop with fresh tyres.
Yes. So with Joel Lask, I was just about to say, who's that hunting him down behind? What are the lap times that Joel Lask is able to pull out? We haven't mentioned him at all, Scott. It's very uncharacteristic, isn't it, from Joel today's race?
Yeah, waiting to see if he makes the same mistake when he pits for new tyres, really. See if he can get it stopped for the pit lane entry.
Right. Yeah.
I was actually just looking at the BMWs. The car shape for the BMW, I don't know why, but it reminds me of the old MG6 touring car. It's big, it's bulky, and it looks really heavy. But I mean, Jack Smith and Oliver Gibson are doing perfect with it, so it looks like it's not what I was thinking. But if I had the choice, I think I'd definitely go with Rich and pick the Mercedes. I think it looks like a lovely car. It sounds lovely as well. I'd probably do the same as the Lamborghini guys and just go and pick it for the sound, I think, and the look rather than testing it. But yeah, Joel has definitely been very quiet in this race, which is, like we said, very much unlike Joel, who's normally getting involved in some nice door handle bashing and some good late moves. He obviously learnt it from me when I taught him how to go-karting. But no, he's doing all right. He's in the top 6, and we saw at Brazil last week, him and Brad were right up there until it looked like maybe the tyres were just starting to go off and the car looked like a big handful, and I think they both ended up making mistakes and going down the order. But Joel's keeping it, he's keeping it steady in 6th position. He's I don't know if he's slightly quicker than Thomas Potter, or if he's around about the same kind of lap times. The gap's kind of fluctuating between 1.6 and 1.3. So again, it's just driver strength around the circuit on braking points and that. But yeah, I'd say Joel's not doing a bad job at all.
Tell you what, he isn't doing a bad job. No, you're right. And I was actually just looking at the MG6. I was like, oh god, yeah, I remember that car. That's a bit of a throwback. And I remember it being driven by Sam Osborne and people like that. But actually, if you scan through people that have driven it, you got Jack Goff in there, you've got Tordoff, Plato, Ash Sutton. There's been some big names in that car, hasn't it? Actually, it's quite an impressive touring car, really, in terms of pedigree. I mean, nothing to do with this championship whatsoever, apart from the fact that BMW does look slightly like it. I will give you that. But yeah, interesting to see. That was a bit of a throwback. You like unlocked a bit of a core memory in me then. I was like, oh god, yeah, what's that?
Well,
I do remember that.
we're just over a third of the way through. Should we get a driver in for a chat?
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting we can do that.
Yeah, we can do that. How do
Who
you feel
do you want to bring in?
Well, I was
Rich?
going to say, how do you feel about getting Jack in? See how he's getting on.
Yeah, we need to hamper him in some way. We need to get him down below 10 seconds.
See if we can put a curse on him.
Right, there we go. Jack Smith. I'm sure this is probably a bit of a surprise to hear us in your ears. And I've done my full Toto Wolf and tried to get in your ears right at the worst time in the circuit. But it doesn't seem to have hurt you too badly, does it? How's the race going? You a little bored yet?
I don't know really. I just got in the zone and just driving. But yeah, no, it's not one. You came on my mic like super loud. I wasn't expecting it.
I'm surprised you didn't tell me, didn't give me the same response George Russell gave him, actually. In the end. We're glad because we're obviously live. But yeah,
Well,
it's.
my mic was muted. My mic was muted.
Oh, that's lucky because you probably would have said it then. Yeah, it's been yeah, the first couple of, well, I don't know, 10-15 minutes was a little bit close, wasn't it? You just trying to build a gap, but since then, Gibson and Ogden start falling over each other, and it's just sort of come to this race, isn't it, a little bit?
Yeah, pretty much. I was watching Johnny behind me to see where he was gaining and what his pace was like, and on the first few laps he was actually a little bit faster. Like I think he did a 6.5, which caught me off guard. I was like, okay, I need to push a bit more then, because otherwise he'll be on me like within a few laps. Because I think the gap was only like 1.5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to stretch my legs a little bit more and see if we can get a bit more pace out. But yeah, the tyres are feeling it now. I'm definitely trying to push a little bit harder to keep at the same pace I was doing. But yeah, I was trying to just sort of do like 6.4s. It seemed safe with the track limits to do that sort of pace. I was losing a bit of time here and there, but I'm just sort of trying to keep it consistent. So yeah.
That was going to be my question. Oh, sorry, Rich.
I was just going to say, how are you getting on with track limits so far?
I think I had one when I had to push a little bit more, but since then I've not had any. I've had one warning in my ear, so we're doing all right at the minute.
Good.
And tyres then, you mentioned tyres. How quickly did they fall off, and are we going to see you change them as we go into the pit zone?
Yeah, I've got a strategy that me and Ollie are sharing at the minute, so yeah, we'll be pitting near halfway, similar to Interlagos strategy really. We started with 70 litres of fuel, so it's not quite got the fuel tank to do that, but do the full race. But yeah, it's we just put another 70 in, fresh set of boots, and then send back out again. So we should lose about 46 seconds. I timed it as. So.
Wow.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Got a spreadsheet for that, have you, Jack?
Yeah, of course. Same one I use for the BMWs.
Of course you have.
I was about to ask that actually. Have you got have you got an iPad or something set up next to you so you can see the screen?
Oh, no.
spreadsheet?
No, not a live one this time. I do it before the race and then get a predicted race up, and then yeah.
Is Elaine not sat next to you reading out the pace notes?
I'd be surprised if you came all the way from Howden to Preston. But, yeah,
well,
no.
what you need is that third monitor or fourth monitor above your setup. I don't know how many monitors you have, but you need that above so you can have that live spreadsheet going all the time.
Yeah.
Then that'll impress the employers. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Take a picture of that, slide that in an interview. Don't worry about it.
Do you know what?
No.
I might have to try that for the next one. I might have to try it. Just get it booted up. It's a bit buggy at the minute because I made it in like 2 hours, but if I can get it working without any bugs, I think it should play a nice role in the next one.
I'd be seriously impressed if you can stick that on the chat or something like that at some point. You can get that.
Yeah.
Seriously impressed.
I'll get it working. I'll get a picture for you for the next one.
That'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. What are you doing over in Preston? Are you staying there? Because that's where you did uni, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've finished uni now. But yeah, just staying here for the time being until my tenancy agreement runs out, and then I'll be moving back home. We're getting Wi-Fi installed in the garage, so that's where my sim's gonna be. So yeah, that should be fun. So at least me and Ollie can race at the same time, even though we're in the same house.
Are you gonna let Ollie put his system in there as well, or?
He's got his in the living room, and there's not massive amounts of room in the garage, so we'll have to make do with separate rooms. But I think that sort of works in its favour, really. It's having separate rooms.
You can start putting land setups in there and everything, and that'll be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
But,
That'd be
no,
pretty
fair
cool.
enough. That's fair enough. Jack, we're going to let you go because I can see that whilst you've been talking to us, you've actually lost a second, and I feel a bit bad. I joked that we'd get you under 10 seconds, but I feel bad if I do that. So
Nah, no, it's all right.
we'll let you go. Thanks very much for coming and having a chat to us.
No worries.
Right, that was Jack Smith. I have to say, Scott, he seemed very relaxed in there, didn't he?
Cool, calm, and collected. Yeah, he might have lost that second, but if you listen to his reaction, it didn't really bother him, did it?
Well, it's
knows
probably going
he-
to take him about 3 laps to get that second back. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But it looks like as well, the battle for P2 is still on. Johnny Ogden hasn't, been dropped by Oliver Gibson. He's stuck with him. That gap stayed 6/10 for quite a while now, quite a consistent amount of laps. So he's driving really well, actually, Johnny. I say I've not actually watched him race on the sims. I have watched him race in real life on YouTube. But actually, watching him on the sim racing, he's definitely a good driver, and I'm quite looking forward to racing against him.
Yeah, it's in fact there's a couple of close battles out there. It's quite refreshing, isn't it, in comparison to a week ago. We got Ogden versus Gibson, which is on our screens now, and Joel Lass has just overtaken Thomas Potter while we were chatting to Jack Smith as well. So he's got up to 5th place, and we mentioned that. Well, I said that I was slightly surprised at how Joel Lask was running. You said he's actually thinks he's doing quite well. Well, he's up to the top 5, isn't he? Which is nothing to be sniffed at, really, in terms of a championship run. This is the not quite penultimate round, is it? No, this is the 3rd to last round. He's doing a good job. He's in 3rd in the championship, and he's not going to beat Smith or Gibson. They're ahead, but he's beating everybody else he needs to beat, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Points make prizes at the end of the day. We all know that, and especially with how close the championship is at the minute, it only takes one mistake, and you can gain them points right back if you're kicking the rear out of the Mercedes going out of turn 1. I think he's maybe either his tyres are going off or he's just starting to get slightly frustrated that he's just there or thereabouts with Oliver Gibson. He just can't quite find a way through yet.
We've just been invaded.
Yeah, we have. Craig said he's up for a chat, so I told him to go into the driver voice, and I've brought him in here. So here he is, live from the west coast of Canada, Craig Curtis.
Greetings from Canada, everyone.
What's the setup like over there, Craig? Is the weather all right?
Lovely weather today. It's just, was it 20 past 12 in the afternoon, so a nice little midday stream of the race. And yeah, sun is shining. Went for a nice walk this morning, so not much jet lag, but I can't wait to get back and lob the stream on. So obviously,
absolutely, you had your priorities correct there, Craig. I mean, what's the reception been like for those around you when you said you wanted to get back? Actually, I'll get to you in a second, Craig, because a change for 2nd place may well be on the cards. It's Gibson versus Ogden. Ogden lunging up the inside. A really sort of nice looking move. Gibson probably only saw him coming at the last second, with Ogden going for that cutback. All of a sudden, this is on the circuit of the Americas. Is a track you like, isn't it, Craig? Are you disappointed not to be here?
Oh yes, massively. Obviously, in these GT3s, it was going to be a good lap in it. But looking at the lap times that Jack was doing in practice, and all the other guys as well, I think I would have struggled. I think I did pretty well in Interlagos last week, but I think I probably would have been running about the top 6, top 5 potentially this evening. But no, again, I'm looking forward to. I think we've got Fuji and Bahrain as the next 2 now for the endurance. So I like those circuits as well. But also looking to come back to the Cupras. Can't wait to get in those and have a bit of front wheel drive fun.
Who are you out in Canada with?
My brother-in-law lives out here. He's been out here for about 10 years now. So we flew out, yesterday, Toronto to Kelowna, got back, literally like traveling for 26 to 27 hours. So had a good 8-hour sleep and literally up this morning. So just looking forward to watching next week's stream and the week after, and then back on the sim myself.
That's actually a good point. Rich, how long is the gap between tonight and the Cupra?
Next Wednesday.
Oh, is it? We're going back to back?
Yeah, back to back.
Wow. Normally we put some a month gap in.
We normally give me a break, but as you know, at the moment, mate, I'm all up for doing as much as I can. So let's. The drivers are well up for it as well. They don't want the break, so let's get on with it.
Yeah, might as well just crack on and do as much racing as we possibly can. So that would allow a week's worth of practice, which Scott, it doesn't seem like that much to me, but I suppose you only ever get a week's worth of practice.
Oh, I don't need practice now. I'm joking. Yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. Practice makes perfect. Like I said last week, you can sometimes do too much where you start to overdrive the car because you want to get quicker and quicker. But the perfect amount of practice is definitely, personally for me, I do maybe 3 evenings a week. Just a couple of hours at a time, have a couple of breaks and think of some things to try and change on the car and message Andy and say, Andy, what have you done? And he'll say, well, I've done this. And then I go about 3 times quicker than him and he goes, well, I ain't telling you again. Yeah, it's one of them things. It's just trial and error.
It's interesting what you just said there, Scott, though. So do you find yourself getting into a rut on your lap times and then taking a break actually helps?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always kind of do about half an hour's worth, 40 minutes. So then I just stop and just think, wow, I'm 3/10 slower now. I'm not doing anything different. But then when you kind of watch it back, you think, oh, actually, I am. I'm just missing this, and I'm not braking where I should be. And I just go and take a 10-15 minute break and go and grab a drink and come back upstairs and give myself a slap a few times and go again and go a bit quicker. But like I said, most of the time my brakes are just I'm messaging Andy and he's going, well, I'll put the suspension to this or the bump at this, and we work off each other's setups. I kind of find his setups do work for me personally. Excuse me, but everyone's different. But yeah, it's definitely we're definitely quite close on the times at the minute.
T-Bot and Joel Lask have both entered into the pits, so those 2 drivers will be. Potter's missed his braking zone in the pits as well, by the looks of it, and it's not going well for him, to be honest. Even though he's so quick, and it does seem to be going quite well for him, there's so many little mistakes that he could try and iron out. Craig, how much practice do you like to do before a week leading up to an event? Or is there any sort of do you go through any kind of routine, or is it just when and if you can get on even the night before?
Yeah, like just to echo Scott, I mean, just to jump on when I can. Like you said, you can spend a bit too long on there sometimes, and you do get into a bit of a rut. You alter things on the setup, and you don't know where you've gone wrong, so you do kind of lose focus a little bit. So it is good to have a break. But the last few weeks I've been jumping on when Love Island's on, so the wife's watching that in the lounge, and I'm on the sim. So I'm glad that Love Island's on for another few weeks at least. So so when I can get the time in, and it's just if I was, I've mentioned before, if I was 20 years younger, I'd be on it every time. But we get on when we can. Like I said before to Rich, I wish I could do the fun races and just the little mini events that they've got on as well, the time attacks and stuff. But at the moment, the Wednesday nights are my bread and butter. So and that's what I look to focus on the weekends, do a bit of practice, and hopefully, like I said, like Scott just mentioned there.
Oliver in the pits. Sorry to cut across you there. We just got Oliver coming into the pits there.
Yeah, so it's change for second on the road then. It's similar to how you treat Love Island, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if my girlfriend ends up getting on the grid at some point, because with the Euros, Wimbledon, and the Olympics coming up soon, she's having to find something else to do. So constantly, it's a great pastime though, isn't it? To just keep you quiet, really, Craig. More than anything, isn't it? If your other half does want to go and do something like watch Love Island or something, it's like, okay, I'll just go keep myself quiet in this little corner of a cupboard or something, isn't it? It's a great hobby for that sort of thing.
Any excuse to jump on the sim, I'm there even for half an hour. It's just annoying that the time goes so quick on the sim, and just I wish, like I said, you could spend hours and hours and hours on it. But again, like you said, it's good to sort of unwind, and it gets quite stressy doing the races, but it is a good way to unwind and sort of just, I would say relax, but it's just a good hobby to have all around.
It's interesting actually for me to hear what kind of setups everybody actually has. So I'm going to go round the room as per se. Craig, what kind of gear are you sort of packing for this? Have you got triple monitors? Have you got Fanatec? Have you got a Cimicube, or is it Logitech? Or
I wish. I've got a sort of entry level sort of setup. I've got a Logitech G923 PC. I've recently acquired from Rich. I was using a laptop. So the last few races I've been using a PC, which has increased the FPS and the reliability no end. I got a 55-inch monitor. Yeah, I got a 55-inch monitor. So no like dual screens or triple screens for me, but just a basic and a play seat challenge, just a foldable play seat. So I am looking to upgrade to I think like a GT Omega or something like that later on in the year, just to get a bit more comfy, let's say. So it does. Using the little lounge chair doesn't have its benefits after an hour and a half on the sim.
Well, I mean, there's a sim for sale in Leeds. Like I said earlier, the current price is £302 plus a Freddo. We've got a bidding war in the YouTube chat. That is Jack Smith and Johnny Ogden going into the pits. Interesting to see where Johnny Ogden will pop out in comparison to Oliver Gibson. Jack Smith's going to take the lead. That's no real sort of big deal. Joel Laskey's probably, well, he has stayed ahead of Thomas Potter, due to Potter obviously missing his braking points or missing the pit box. It means that Adam Lyle's probably going to stay ahead of him as well as he's entered the pits. And could see Oliver Gibson. Jack Smith's about to take. Jack Smith's about to exit. There we go. He's about to take the first corner as Oliver Gibson goes round the final corner. And in fact, I'm going to ask you in a minute, Scott, what your setup sort of like in a second. I just want to see Johnny Ogden versus Oliver Gibson, to be honest, because Ogden's coming out the pits. This could be very close indeed. In fact, it could be so late on the brakes for Gibson to try and go around the outside of Johnny Ogden, and he may well have done it. What a move, Scott. That's not easy.
That's not easy at all. Like we said before, it's a very blind corner, and Oliver's obviously got his tyres up to working temperature, and Johnny's obviously probably still slightly cold coming up the pit, so he probably didn't want to be too late on the brakes and obviously end up understeering and going into the side of Oliver. But that was a really good race, and Johnny left room, and Oliver, a really good move around the outside there.
It is indeed. So while we wait to see if Ogden can get his tyres up to temperature and then maybe make some kind of response with that top line speed, you would expect it to come relatively soon. What kind of setup have you got, Scott, operating in the background?
At the minute, I've just acquired a nice curved AOC monitor off Mr. Hayden.
Very nice.
And then I've bought. I sold everything to Brad pretty much a few months ago, because I was moving house and moving in with the missus, so I thought, right, okay, we'll have to give it up for a little bit. And then I got bored after like 6 weeks, and then ended up getting a Hammer C5 wheel off of Joel. I've nicked the racing seat and rails out of my race car at the minute and put it on on a rig. So I am now seatless in my race car until Donington next month when I'm racing. And the PC, I was struggling with a PC. Mine was giving up the ghost. Andy obviously asked me to ask Rich, which I did buy one off Rich, but for some reason, I don't know what I did, but it didn't work on my TV at all. So Rich was very kind and nice enough to let me return it and give me my money back, and didn't call me every name under the sun.
Never.
He's helped me out as much as he can, which is all I can ask. And Andy Carroll sent me some links to buy a PC, and nicely enough for Joel, he didn't, try and hamper me. He built it for me a couple of weeks ago, and touch wood, it hasn't set fire yet. So he obviously wants me to race with him still. But yeah, that's what I'm on. I haven't raced with any of this yet properly. So next week will be the first time actually racing with a proper setup and curve monitor and a decent PC and some now working OBP pedals.
Well, the reason why I bring it up, Rich, is I'm going to finish with you because I know you've got the best setup, obviously, and everything like that. But I mean, you can enter these championships in whatever setup. I mean, whether it's like grades where it's a little bit more, let's say, basic and there's room for upgrades, or whether you have already done the upgrades like yourself. You can jump in, and there's still people who win. With the League of Champions and stuff like that, and even actually to this day, there are people who jump on with the most basic of setups and win our championships and win the upgrades that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've had people that have had steering wheels clamped to desks with office chairs, with the wheels of the office chairs stuck in shoes so the chair doesn't move back. You name it, we've had it. And it doesn't matter, yes, a better set of equipment is going to give you more feedback, slightly more immersive, probably make you more consistent because you can feel more what's happening with the car. That's
Johnny,
a spin.
he's not consistent, and he probably definitely felt that, I imagine. I don't know what system he's running on, but no matter what, he's hit a big curb, and that's sort of somewhat ruined the fight for second, which is a bit of a shame.
It's not a motion sim that he's running on that one.
No, hopefully not. Hopefully, have you still got your motion sim, Rich?
No, I sold it. So as you know, I think I had something like 6 or 7 simulators in the room here, all at a high level. But I just wasn't using them enough. So it just seems silly for me to, have that many simulators with, like if you were to buy them, they were like 15 grand plus worth of simulators each. So it just seems silly for me to have that many sims sat here with being sat there for the majority of the time until, I did the odd event where I had, 10 to 15 people here. So that was quite a rare occurrence. So yeah, I've cut it down. I've got 2 now. So I've got my desk set up with obviously everything is Aegon by AOC. So these guys, number 1 in the world gaming monitor supplier, and they are fantastic displays. So I've got a 45-inch OLED on my desk with 2 34-inch curved either side of that, which helps me enormously when I'm broadcasting. So I've got a lot of real estate to look at in front of me. And the 2 sims that I've got left have both got curved OLED 45-inch displays with curved 49-inch displays as overheads on them. Both SimuCube 2 Pro steering with Cube Controls GT Pro wheels, Mecha sequential shifters and handbrake, and Mecha hydraulic pedals as well. So yeah, quite good bits of kit.
Yeah, quite a lot there, isn't it? But if people were out there, like for instance, Craig, or maybe even people that are obviously a lot more new to the setup and everything, what's the first thing you would say if you were going to upgrade from a Logitech G29 clamped to a desk with, standard pedals and a 27-inch monitor or something like that? What would be the first thing you'd say? Right, okay, maybe save up for this first.
I would say I was having a chat with Jack Smith a few months ago on about the kit that we've got and stuff, and he said pedals are the most important thing, rather than the wheel itself. Always pedals, the load cells. So that will probably be, once I get a newer rig, I think the pedal set will be the newer thing that I'll get, and then obviously a wheel on top of that. So yeah, again, it's just new. I'm still, I would say, relatively new to sim racing. I'm a new starter, late starter, I should say. I wish I was doing it years and years ago, but yeah, just learning, the different bits of kit. There's so much out there now. You can get lost amongst all the stuff that's there. But yeah, it's just recommendations as well. What this group, a group of guys and girls think works for them, and yeah. So I think the pedals are the most important thing. So that's once the holiday's done, we've got nothing planned, so I can save up and have a bit of a spend.
Absolutely. As we see Joel Last coming into the pits, I'll just finish off my sort of, I don't know, conversation thread that I was going on there in a second, but I can see that the teapot has caught up to Chris Blakey. I don't know if Blakey's overtaken Thomas or whether it's Thomas has caught up to Blakey, but he seems to be being dropped right now. So he's dropped down into 8th position. It's actually still the closest battle that we've got out there on circuit, as Lee Piercy in the pits, as well as Darren Butler seems to be dropping all the way down. They've left it extremely late to come into the pits, which is a bit of a strange tactics. But to finish up, Rich, just for anybody out there who's watching, who's maybe thinking about getting into sim racing, we just heard Craig probably say the right thing. The correct answer, let's face it, in brakes is probably the biggest step up that you could potentially make in terms of consistency and lap time.
Absolutely.
But what are some of the key words that you would want to look out for in terms of the brakes? And also, my answer, if it wasn't going to be brakes, would be monitor as well for that field of vision, wouldn't it? So, to make the step up from your basic Logitech stuff up to a couple of £100 more, what's the sort of some of the things you should be looking out for, and what's maybe not worth it?
Okay, so I'm going to take a step back from pedals as well and say that the place that I would start is a PC that can run the simulation software that you are, the one that you use, or any of them that you use, at least 90 frames per second. You don't really need to go more than that. You can, obviously, but the human eye sees it for 60 frames per second. So any more than that, you're kind of getting into a zone that you don't need. But I would say, to give you some headroom below and above, look for a PC where you can run the simulation software at 90 frames per second. After that,
what sort of hardware would you be looking for that? What say a GPU for instance?
Yeah,
graphics card?
it depends on the software that you're running. So something like Assetto Corsa is very CPU intensive rather than GPU intensive. But something like, for example, Assetto Corsa Competizione is much more GPU intensive than CPU intensive. So it really does depend on which software you're running. However, I would advise to go for a minimum of a Core i5 with one of the latest gen GPUs. It doesn't have to be a top end one. It can be, you could, well, for example, I run 2080 Ti's in my two Sims here, and they are absolutely ample for running Assetto Corsa. They're both Core i9s, so they're slightly higher on the processor side, but 2080 Ti's are perfect for Assetto Corsa. So this race to get the best GPU, you don't necessarily always need it. After that, you're going to need to make sure that it's at least 16 gig of RAM, and something with probably an SSD drive, so it's got fast access to the memory as well. After that, I'm going to go for pedals. There are 3 different phases of pedals. You've got your entry stuff, which is basically spring-loaded, like the trigger on an Scalextric that has a potentiometer. So basically, the further you physically push the pedal, the more it breaks, which, as we know, is not how a real brake pedal works in real life. It's not the further you push it, it's the harder you push it. So the next level up from a potentiometer on a set of entry pedals is something called a load cell, which judges how hard you are pushing the pedal rather than how far you're pushing the pedal. And then the next stage up from that is something like hydraulic, which is like the pedals that I've got on the Sims here. So you have a master cylinder and a slave cylinder, just like you've got in a real car, and you're pushing brake fluid around, so it gives you a much more realistic feel, and you are able to do a lot better cadence braking, a lot better managing of that brake pedal as you're coming into corners.
Yeah.
So I can go on, but I think that's probably enough for the minute.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, the monitor as well. Basically, the wider the better, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, look, you can go ultra. I mean, people have flat. People have flat, 27-inch monitors. The problem with that is it doesn't give you a good wide field of view. As you are sat in a race car, in your peripheral vision, you can see things going out the side as you're looking forward. You're limited on that on a smaller monitor. So the wider the monitor, or even go to triple monitors, gives you a really good field of view. Just gives you that little bit extra depth perception, if you like, going into corners, and gives you a better field of view for when drivers are close to you as well.
Yeah, for people lunging you, as you can imagine. It's definitely something that needs to be looked after. Right, that's about half an hour sort of spent talking about hardware and things like that, which I find quite fascinating. But hopefully,
can I
hopefully
just point out one thing? Sorry, Ben Smith, who I recall won the BMWs championship. He is on a Logitech, which is clamped to a desk on an office chair. From what Joel was saying,
yeah, he is.
And he's ended up winning the championship and doing really well with it. So I'm quite looking forward. I know he's looking at getting a rig very soon. So with an upgrade from him, and he can win a championship on a desk clamp on steering wheel, I'm sure think he'll be even quicker and even more consistent on a rig and a bit more of an upgraded setup.
Yeah, well, let's face it, you know where to send him. Right.
Two Fred open.
Yeah, exactly. Andy Carroll's just been overtaken by Thomas Potter. Lee Pierce, he looks to be going side by side with Josh Martin. Andy Carroll's actually falling well down. I'm not sure what's happening to him. But there's Andy Carroll. I don't know whether it's a timing glitch. But Josh Martin and Lee Pierce is really the battle we want to be keeping an eye out on, because they're going down towards the heavy braking zone, and we're potentially finally getting some racing on our screens. It's been a little while as Lee Piercy on the outside and the Mercedes tries to outbrake Josh Martin, who absolutely smashes the curb on the inside. Lee Piercy runs a little bit wide. 6-1 half doesn't the other, probably. At least they're not hitting each other is the idea. As Josh Martin tries to cut up the inside, gets too squirrely on the curbs, and I tell you what, that's very easily done, as we've got now Paul Laramie just behind as well, hunting, searching for spaces around both of the drivers that were in front of him in the battle and the quest for 8th position. Craig, if this was you, it would be a bit touch and go, wouldn't it? But it's the sort of thing you live for and race for, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. Like, well, last week at Interlagos, me and Chris and Joel, Brad and Josh, we had a good little ding dong the first half hour, 40 minutes, and he just loved a bit of wheel-to-wheel action, as long as it's clean and fair. And yeah, it makes them sweat a bit more when you see them in your mirrors or going side by side. It's yeah, that's why we all do it, you know, at the end of the day. So it's yeah, if you're out front leading, it's fine, like Jack, but you know, you do crave a bit of racing action as well.
You do indeed. Right, we're going to let you go, Craig, because one, you got a holiday to enjoy. I know you're watching the stream and everything like that, but two, we're going to potentially get another driver in to have a chat to them. Probably not Josh Martin while he's in the thick of it, but thanks very much for coming in, and have a nice holiday over the next couple of weeks.
Pleasure. Thanks,
Enjoy.
guys. I'll catch you all next week.
Cheers, Craig.
Take care, mate.
Thanks, guys.
So, on getting another driver in, I did have a message from Mr. Potter saying he'd quite like to be interviewed during the race. So, what do you think? We get the teapot in?
Yeah, let's give it a go. He's
Okay.
in a bit of no man's land, isn't he? So we want to make sure that we're not going to interrupt him. Mr. Potter, are you with us? Can you hear us? He is in here. He's just doing some braking at the moment. Missed that again, so I don't want to put him off too much. But Thomas, if you can hear us, let us know in a couple of minutes. Just sort of interrupt us when you feel like it.
There he is.
How you doing, Thomas? How's the race going? It's been a bit up and down, hasn't it?
Yeah, decent so far, but didn't change tyres, so I'm just struggling now.
Ah, is that why you missed a couple of braking zones in this second half of the race?
Yeah.
What was the drama going into the pit box?
I was trying to figure out how to change tyres, and then just wasn't actually able to, and then ended up missing my grid spot trying to change them, so just stuck on the old tyres and then missed my grid spot, which lost me all the time as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because it looked like in qualifying, there's a few too many track limits and everything like that, but it looked like you had some really good pace. Are you enjoying Circuit of the Americas?
Well, at the start, I wasn't enjoying it all. I couldn't actually get a valid lap in for about one day, and then ended up getting it all together. And well, now I actually quite enjoy the track.
It's interesting. We've been talking to Scott and to Craig and Rich and people like that about the amount of practice. Now you're at a very different stage of life compared to us old folks here in the commentary box and everything like that. How much practice do you manage to fit around school and everything like that?
Well, every time I come back from school, get changed, do my homework, and jump straight on. So my mum.
That's what we like to hear.
I think I've probably done more laps for this week than anybody. But although my sister has been doing a lot of laps too, which is kicking me off a sim, but I'm normally able to just get on straight away.
Are we going to get another Potter joining the grid at some point then?
Yeah, potentially. She's got my old sim rig is a huge thanks to GT Mega for sending me this new one. So just waiting on her getting a PC and hopefully a new monitor. So then, yeah, she might be joining us.
What kind of rig has GT Omega sent you then? What have you sort of got packing now?
So I've now got the Prime light cockpit from GT Omega. I've just
Very nice.
Well, first thing I've noticed is the screen's so close to me compared to the old one, but it's so far, well, helped me out a lot on pace, so I can't say anything bad about it.
No, is that a case of just having to get used to it a lot, getting ready for the Coupe for Leon's?
Yeah, probably main reason why I put so much practice in for this is just to try get used to a sim rig as much as I can before Cupras, and hopefully fighting for a podium in the championship in the Cupras.
Yeah, well, we're hoping for you as well, because you've come on leaps and bounds, and by the sounds of it, the amount of practice you're putting in, it's no real surprise. We'll keep you in the commentary box, but I just want to bring the attention to everyone of Josh Martin versus Paul Laramie. Maybe a late lunge coming into the first corner. Josh Martin doesn't normally disappoint. The two Lamborghinis go side by side. Josh Martin doesn't disappoint. He doesn't make the corner or keep the car straight, which is a bit of a shame. But that was a nice idea in Sport Laramie, but it didn't quite happen. Is there any questions you want to pose to Thomas, Scott, or Rich before we let him go?
I was just gonna say, I think you've come on really well. You're obviously racing against Thomas, in the BMW's last championship. So you definitely come on strong. So I'm, should we say, a little bit wary now that he's got a new rig. He's going to be that few tenths probably quicker and probably battling for the front and keeping me on my toes. So well done, and it's nice to see you right up there at the sharp end of the field.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Thomas, actually, before we do let you go, how long have you been backed by GT Omega? Because that's a big company that a lot of drivers have tried to get sponsorship from, but none have really had much. I mean, I couldn't even get a reply, I'll be honest, when I tried it a couple of years ago.
Well,
so
how do you, Jack?
Well, yeah, I'm aware of that, but how did that relationship come about?
Well, mainly thanks to my dad for actually getting me all the sponsors. I think it was about last year when they started sponsoring me. Then don't laugh. Sorry, Adam's in my ear. Then this year they sent me 2 cockpits, which now my sister has. The starter one, which I used to promote, so new people could get in a sim racing, and then now I've got the obviously the one, which is way better and way sturdier. So. And then they've also, invited me over to the Brands Hatch American Festival of Speed this year, which was super fun, and then even better cockpits there as well. So
sounds amazing. Sounds like a dream, really. Max Wright has been in the YouTube chat and said, "Can we tell Teapot that there's custard and hot chocolate powder on the line from Catherine and Max?" Apparently, so. Yeah, I think you've done pretty well to deserve that, I'd say. Thomas, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go and finish the race?
I can't concentrate. To Adam, all of Phoenix, Joel, Brad, Stu, and Adam, Darren, and Julian, as well as GT Amiga and all my new sponsors, which are helping me pay for my UKC race, which is £700, so quite a lot of money, as well as my granddad, who's a big shout out to go to for supporting me through all the years, ever since I was a baby till now.
Fantastic. Well, Thomas, a big good luck. You got Paul Laramie hunting you down, so we'll let you go, but congratulations on a good race, and good luck for the last 20 minutes.
Thanks, Ryan. Just stay my.
Right, well, that was Thomas Potter plus friends and family. I'm not really sure who was in the background there, but luckily that I don't think we had any obscene language or anything, so that's fine.
It was all good.
Did put him off a little bit though, so I feel like we've cost him quite a few seconds, unfortunately. But Lee Piercy versus Josh Martin, is this still?
Yeah, it's Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a good battle that we've had here, and I don't know if either of you have been keeping an eye on it while I've been chatting.
Yeah, so Lee's starting to reel in. So Lee's got, I've just been looking at the top speed.
Oh! Josh Martin having turned around with that rear end, that loose Lamborghini, and Lee Piercy giving him a bit of a tap as he goes round as well. That's extinguished that battle, but it was a bit of a shame. But yeah, sorry, carry on, Rich.
I know, I was just saying, I've noticed that Lee's got a good 4 mile an hour top speed over Josh, so he's going to be reeling him in on the straights.
Ah, I see.
But we can see Mr. Laramie now coming up to Mr. Potter.
Yeah, Paul Laramie, a driver you raced against a lot. Scott, what should Thomas Potter be expecting here?
I think Paul Laramie is a very fiery racer. He's very good, I'd say very clean with me anyway. I haven't obviously seen anything untoward from him, so we know he's a very experienced real-life racer as well as Thomas Potter, who does the go-karting. So this will be quite good. You've got 2 real-life racers coming, head-to-head, and the best man win in that way. But Paul's done really well. I think Paul's kind of been under the radar. So he's had a couple of overtakes throughout the race, but he's just kind of picked his way through. He's kind of been like a Chris Blakely kind of thing from last week, where he's just kind of got on with it, and he's just picking his way through and getting involved in some nice battles, and most of the time coming out on top.
Yeah, no, it does seem to be quite impressive, doesn't it? Apparently it was Adam Lyle we had in the background of Mr. Potter's interview. I'm guessing Adam is in the same room as him, because I'm not sure how. Yeah, I'm not sure how we would have heard Adam if it was over Discord or something like that. But yeah, hopefully it's nice that they're sharing that, and they're sort of working together to get their pace up. I'm not actually sure. Do you know how old Adam Lyle is, Rich?
I'm gonna say in his 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. It was. I was expecting him to be about 16 or something like that, with or 14 or something like that. I thought they were mates, but yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, of course, Adam Lyle. Yeah, we've interviewed him before.
Adam, who's got the deepest voice in the world.
I'm completely wrong about that. I'm getting him completely mixed up with someone. As Paul Lamy goes around and tries to go around the outside of Thomas Potter and doesn't quite make that stick just yet, but you can feel it coming, can't you, Scott? You can sort of feel the anticipation. He's lining him up, trying to force Potter into a mistake.
Yeah, he just took the words right out of my mouth. He's just showing his nose, and he's showing himself into Thomas's mirrors just to see if he can just put him under some pressure. But Thomas is doing well. He's not running wide anymore. He's just keeping to his racing line. I thought I spoke too soon then. And he's doing really well. He's not really defending either. He's just kind of keeping him at an arm's length and not slowing himself down to try and defend. But as they come down the straight, looks like Paul Lamy got a good run through the last corner. But Thomas is doing really well, and it looks like from what I can see, Lee Pearcey's maybe coming back into play a little bit.
Yeah. Also, let's not forget, Thomas didn't change his tyres, did he?
No. So he'll be struggling with that a little bit, won't he? It is something that is quite unique, really, in the endurance racing that you don't normally have in the sprint racing, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what Thomas's strategy was, but whether he planned not to change the tyres, or like you said, he was having a problem with changing them in the pits. But he's clearly suffering with that now.
Yeah, he is, and Paul Lamy is attempting to take some kind of advantage. A driver who hasn't really suffered with anything is Jack Smith. He's got a 20-second lead effectively. We haven't mentioned him that much in the second half of the race, but it's been rather dominant by him, hasn't it? As Paul Lamy again tries to force a mistake from Potter, and I think he may well have done just a bit there as he clatters the curb and gets a little bit of a poor run down here into the braking zone. We've got Lee Pearcey's, I think Rich mentioned, coming into the fray a little bit.
Yeah, well, he was 2 seconds quicker than him on both of the drivers in front of him on the last lap.
Yeah, so that's a big advantage, isn't it? You'd expect as they keep falling all over each other. That would only increase. If I sound out of breath, I do apologise. I'm suffering with COVID and my vision's just gone a little bit weird. So I will probably hand over to Rich for a minute or two. And Scott, I'm sure you can figure this battle out by yourself. But Scott, it's nice to see a three-way battle come into the last 15 minutes.
Absolutely. It's just spiced it right up. And Lee Pearcey is really on this lap. Has really gained a lot of time here. Obviously, Thomas Potter's been defending slightly, and it's just kind of backed them both up. And Lee Pearcey's probably thinking, I can have 2 in 1 here.
Yeah, he's rubbing his hands together, isn't he? Oh, I just thought we were going to see him going through there, but yeah.
No, he's definitely lining him up. He's definitely looks like he's going to try and have a go here. He's braking late. Right, he's just showing himself there just to see if he can make Paul Lamy defend. But Thomas Potter runs slightly wide there, but he didn't lose a lot of time, which is good for him. But yeah, it's got a nice bit of a battle. It looks like my good old teammate might be coming involved as well in a minute.
Yeah, here we go. Lee's going for a pass on Paul, and he's made that stick. It was quite easy, wasn't it? He's got. Oh, actually, is Paul going to come back at him? Yes, he's taking the place back. Well played, Paul.
Good. Yeah, well played. It was a nice switch back. It was nice and clean, and we're now coming through the hard section 1, where you don't really want to be going side by side. You lose a lot of time because you'd have to, both of you would have to kind of back out of it. So it's good there.
So easy to lose time through these corners, but I think we've got a breathless Jack back.
Yes, no, I'm just about here. It's a bit of a shame because I was feeling better today, and all of a sudden commentating is a bit of a strain on the old voice. But it is very exciting. I wouldn't change it for the world, to be honest, because it is very entertaining as we see Potter going for a defensive manoeuvre, too defensive almost. But no, Laramie's overshot it. He's going to leave them both open for an overtake by Lee Pearcey, isn't it? Lee trying to get the cut back on 2 into 1. This could be a really late break. Scott, I'm a bit worried about how this is going to end, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how it's going to end either. But like I said, Andy Carroll's gained about 1.5 seconds just on this lap alone. But as they come into the hairpin, they're still side by side, and it looks like Lee Pearcey might just have it stick. I thought Paul Lamy was going to have a go and try and make it 3 wide, but absolutely fantastic racing. It's kind of woken me up now. It's 12 minutes to go, and we don't know what's going to happen.
No, it's sort of what we've been craving, really, isn't it? A bit of a grandstand finish.
Oh,
Well,
no.
it's just may well have gone the wayside a little bit as Paul Laramie got a little bit too loose. That's similar to what we saw Josh Martin do earlier, Rich.
Yeah, he's clearly got on the loud pedal a little bit too quickly there. So that's a shame because it was shaping up to be a nice four-way battle with Andy coming in too.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, again, Potter holding on to that position for as many laps as he did with the tyres that he's got on the car. You can see the pace difference now that Piercy's gone. It's still, he's going to struggle to keep Andy Carroll behind, but with 11 minutes to go, you might think that he can stay inside the top 10 at least, mightn't you?
Yeah, I think Andy's got a run on him here. Obviously, Thomas went quite wide there, which he would have got a track cut for. Obviously, we don't know how many he's had already, but he needs to be careful.
He does, but going into the first corner, Carroll doesn't go for it yet, as Potter lives to fight for at least one or two more corners. I'm not entirely sure if we've got any other close battles out on circuit. Chris Blakey's about 1.7 seconds behind Joel Lask.
Yeah.
Ogden versus Gibson has certainly gone quiet, hasn't it? And Adam Lyle in fourth place. The top five separated by, oh God, so many seconds. It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? About just over a minute between the top five. But it is a lot closer, Scott, than it was last week at Sao Paulo, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. The good thing is, I would have thought that this track would have been a little bit more spread out, just because it's just that little bit longer. But once again, though, even with Chris Blakely, he's done really well. I think he didn't qualify. I don't think he qualified in the top 5 or 6. So he's just kind of kept his head down and carried on doing what he from last week and been consistent and picked his way through. And he's 1.6 seconds behind Joel, and within this next 10.5 minutes to go, he could mount an attack. But a big shout out to Thomas Potter for not changing his tyres. The traction on that Mercedes must be awful, and as you can see there, the front end looks like it's just started to wash away slightly. But I think he's doing really, really well, actually. For not changing his tyres, that must be absolutely horrible to drive.
It looks to me like they're falling off a cliff now. I think he's going to really struggle to keep that place, even to Paul, but it's coming up behind them as well.
Yeah, that's I think going to be Potter's fear, isn't it, really? That I don't think Josh Martin's going to catch him in the next 10 minutes or so, unless Potter has a really big mistake or has a bit of a coming together. So top 10 may well be safe, but it's a case of what could have been, isn't it, really? Fourth place to qualifying, and even then qualifying, it could have been towards the front row. He's squeezing Andy Carroll a bit. That's a little bit cheeky. 2 bites of the cherry to try and get over. There's a Lamborghini in the way. You're not going to be able to fight it, and I know Potter wants to keep the position, but realistically, it's a bit safer just to let the Lamborghini go, and he's not going to let him go. He's going to try and go up the inside into turn 1. He's going to have the speed. He's going to have the overtake. Can he get the car stopped? And will Paul Laramie get the cut back on both of them? Potter goes very cleanly through. Actually, he's done a very good job of that one, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that's a really good move from Thomas. He got the car stopped. The front end didn't wash out, and the traction was, he got the throttle position just right there, where he got a good bit of grip on the exit, and he's kept Andy behind him. And I've raced with Andy for a numerous amount of years as well, and he's a very, very clean driver. Andy Carroll reminds me of like Colin Turkington-esque. He's always in the points.
Yeah.
He's never involved in contact or anything like that. He keeps himself to himself, and I've full trust in going side by side with him. But Paul Laramie's caught back up again, so it looks like he's having a go on Andy now as well into the hairpin. It's a very nice move there, and mounts that nice sausage curb, and we know Thomas should be safe-ish coming down this straight, because we know the Mercedes is just that slightly little bit quicker on than the Lamborghinis down the straight. But nice little three-way battle we've got.
Yeah, so going down into the heavy braking zone with 8 minutes to go. It's Andy Carroll versus Paul Laramie. Laramie very late on the brakes there. Does manage to get the car sort of actually pretty nicely through the corner. It was a bit of an odd route there that he was choosing, Rich, wasn't it? But he's managed to pull it off.
Yeah, no, fair play.
Nearly not pulling that one off, though, as there was contact with Potter. Laramie finally finding a way through. Can Andy Carroll respond and maybe take advantage of these two fighting as Laramie pulls over to the racing line? Potter tries to get the sweeping move, but his tyres just aren't going to give him any more grip if he asks them to. It's going to be Carroll to make a lunge potentially into the final couple of corners. Potter going with the outside. He's not letting this go, is he, Rich? It's going to be very tight towards the end of this race.
Fair play to him. He's making that car quite wide, isn't he? Whether it's because he's sliding across the track because he's got no grip, or whether he's putting it there or not, we don't know. But yeah, it looks like Andy's got him, but we know that Merc's faster down the straight, so I see him coming out of the first corner in the lead.
We spoke about Josh Martin as well, not being able to catch Thomas Potter by the end, but he's gained a lot of time on these three, and it looks like he's only two and a bit seconds behind now. And I've seen him in the background; he's definitely catching because he was just under 6 seconds a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, well, actually, let's have a quick look at the lap times if they load for me. Previous couple of laps, Potter a 2:14.4, Andy Carroll a 2:14.6. Josh Martin was 4 seconds quicker with a 2:10.6. So you're absolutely right, Scott. It could be come down to Josh being invited, but I mean Andy Carroll needs to get God of Thomas, doesn't he? I mean a driver with being that slow. Paul Laramie got through for only about half a lap, and he was 2 seconds quicker. A driver being that slow, you really do need to dispatch him quicker than this.
Absolutely, yeah. The quicker you can dispatch him, the better. But like I said, Thomas is doing a really good job. Even there, that on the braking, he's defending, he's taking the tight line, and he's getting the car turned in. He's getting a good bit of traction on the exit, and he's still in front of Andy. And hats off to him because, like I said, I actually think that car's like driving on eggshells at the minute. But we know what Josh Martin's like. He's a nice, fiery driver, nice and aggressive, and I'm sure he'll try and get stuck in where he can.
Yeah, no, he had a spin early on, remember, as well. So this is touching on a recovery drive, and I know it's not many drivers have sort of gone to the end of this race. We've only got 14 still running, but it's still a top 10's a top 10. It's worth having, isn't it? As Martin's caught right back to the back of these two, and Carroll may well live to regret this because Martin's got decent pace and Carroll just cannot find a way through. And I don't think you can say that Potter's doing anything wrong. I'm not going to invite Rich to say anything about that because, of course, he is the steward as well, and he'll have to give replays and he won't want to give his opinion just yet. But from what I've seen, Potter's made 1 or 2 movements that I think, okay, let's be careful here. But apart from that, he's just put his car in exactly the right position as Andy Carroll can't get through, and Josh Martin seems to find a space there, Rich.
Yeah, I was quite surprised at that. It just looked like Josh has got some grip under him on that car. I mean, let's not forget, Josh is a real-world racer. He's got a lot of experience. Andy is a sim racer, and he doesn't have that real-life experience that Josh has got of getting through traffic.
It's very true, but it's not like Andy Carroll hasn't been around in sim racing enough, is it, either?
I totally agree. I mean, look, Andy's a great driver. For whatever reason, whether it's something on the setup or whether he's carrying any damage, we don't know that. I can't see any damage on the car. It does look very clean, but, who knows? He might be carrying something.
Yeah, that's very true. And I was just having a look. He's got 31 kilos of ballast on board. Whereas Martin's only got 27, so there's not really much in that. You can't probably give him that excuse. Thomas Potter, how much ballast has he got? Oh, a bit of a touch in the back end there. Potter's got 0 kilograms of ballast on board, so that may well be helping him in defence a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
Talking of getting through traffic, though, sorry to interrupt. It looks like is that Jack Smith going to be catching these guys? This could get interesting now. So we'll see how well Jack Smith can pick him off, but. In my opinion, this is all this is going to do is help Thomas at the minute try and pull away because the guys behind him have got to look out for Jack Smith.
Yeah, Smith has got a 23-second gap to Oliver Gibson behind, of course, who he'll be sharing not only a team with, but a house with sooner rather than later, apparently, by the sounds of it. But I think Smith may well start giving these guys a lesson on how to dispatch people. I mean, they should be jumping out the way from with blue flags as Josh Martin makes Potter jump out the way for him by the looks of it up the road. And Martin gets a nice run and gets gone. So, Martin is in 9th place. Potter's still inside the top 10 with Andy Carroll at 11th. And Jack Smith with his car on absolute rails. I mean, people looking at this, Scott, they'll be very jealous of how Jack Smith's car's handling at this point, especially when Potter watches this back. Huge lunge up the inside for Andy Carroll. He does jump out of the way rather significantly, to be fair to him. But, I mean, just the onboard there of Smith's car, considering we're 2 minutes away, we're an hour and 27 minutes away. It's stunning how smooth that car is.
Absolutely. I think, even you all know as well, Jack, even in real life, when you've got a car hooked up. Oh, Josh is just spun. He's got past
Oh,
almost
Josh.
past Andy, and he's ended up spinning there. But going back to what I was saying, when you've got a car really dialed in and it's on rails, it feels good. On the sim in real life, I think, it looks like that car is absolutely set up to perfection. And he's proved that. He's been consistent. It's a bit like Oliver from last week. He's made no mistakes. He's just cracked on with it and got on with it. But it looks like Andy Cowell's going to take another bite and have another go at Thomas Potter. Is that Paul Laramie there?
I just saw that.
So it looks like he's lost another position. So that's another position for Thomas Potter, back up to 8th. This is what I mean. No, Thomas Potter's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's staying out of trouble. He's just defending where he needs to, and absolutely fantastic drive from him.
Yeah, to be fair, it's the best we've seen him drive all night. We've only ever seen him sort of semi-fleetingly in qualifying and earlier in the race, but every time we cut to him, he was making a big mistake. And don't get me wrong, he's not exactly keeping all 4 wheels on the track all the time either now, but you have the excuse of those tyres have done an hour and 28 minutes, so you can't really hold that against him. So he's actually driving the best now than he ever has, and maybe it is to do with the fact that he's got a race to race against other drivers, and he's actually doing well. He's gained some kind of momentum, hopefully, carrying some. Maybe he's getting used to the sim, the new GT Omega sim that he's playing with. But it's really impressive for him anyway.
So we've got a minute left. So we're about to start this. Yeah, we're on the second to last lap now, aren't we? So Jack's about to start the last lap with a 23-second lead.
And this Jack is about to have a nap, to be honest, because not because this race is boring, but because. I've been very much looking forward to the checkered flag coming, I'll be honest, after about 45 minutes. But a big thank you to you guys for coming in and chatting so much. I know at the beginning of the broadcast I said that I'll sort of be leaning on you a lot more than we did at Sao Paulo, and you guys have really stepped up to the plate as well. And not only just doing the interviewee punditry stuff, but also actually taking over a little bit. So thank you very much to you two, and Craig Curtis, to Jack Smith, to Thomas Potter, to Oliver Gibson, all the drivers that have come in and had a chat to us. It's been absolutely brilliant. And thank you to everybody who's made this 90 minutes absolutely fly by. And for Jack Smith, it is flying by the last lap now, to be honest, because here he comes. Second half of the lap to go, and he hasn't really been touched. Rich, it's been very impressive, hasn't it, from him? Not quite as dominant as Oliver was at Sao Paulo, but I mean, he never really questioned him, did you?
It's difficult to question Jack when he gets on a circuit, isn't it? I mean, even with me putting a 20% restrictor on the car, he's still been dominant, hasn't he?
It's the next week.
I know, yeah. It's going into Cooper. It's a little bit scary. He's entered into the championship, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, but he's the first to admit, both him and Oliver, that front-wheel drive are not their favourite cars to drive.
Everybody's the first to admit that, aren't they? I've yet to hear somebody actually say, apart from Scott, actually. Scott said earlier that he hates rear-wheel drive. So, Scott, you're the anomaly in VRRC, I feel.
Absolutely, I'll take that. I'm one of a kind.
Yeah, we're not arguing that one either. So as Jack Smith rounds out the final couple of corners, the penultimate we're going into the penultimate round of the World Endurance League in about 10 weeks' time, and really there's no stopping these BMWs, restrictors or not. We are hoping that the next couple of circuits can maybe have a little bit of a fair advantage, but the Mercedes have been really strong here this week. Hopefully the rest of them can catch them as well, but it's been a dominant performance by the DK Motorsport drivers. Jack Smith is going to take the checkered flag early on the start-finish straight. He'll wait about 20 seconds before he sees his teammate and brother, Oliver Gibson, winner at Sao Paulo, also take the checkered flag. They cut home in second place on the track. Johnny Ogden's more than likely going to take the third place, and it's a shout for driver of the round. But as we see Oliver Gibson come across the start-finish line, it's not Oliver Gibson, the driver of the round, but we have decided to give it down to a driver who has made his fair share of mistakes, but has also has also given us plenty to watch, plenty to shout about. His fans in the YouTube chat have loved it as well. We're going to give the driver of the round to Thomas Potter, which I'm sure will be very popular for those of you at home. Johnny Ogden comes across the line. He's done brilliantly. He was a close shout for driver of the round, just how consistent he was and everything like that. But that gap that he ended up falling away from Oliver Gibson just took my vote away from him a little bit. Adam Lyle's done brilliantly. Joel Lask flew into the radar quite significantly tonight. Chris Wakey and Lee Piercy will finish off. But we're going to go to a very short advert break before we have a chat to our 3 podium sitters. And we are back with some, I'm sure, very happy, but to be honest, uncharacteristically quiet podium sitters. I don't know whether they're just being respectful as they jump in, because we always ask them to be quiet, but they normally all come in chatting away. Let's get to the interviews anyway, see if they're a little bit more chatty when we their face. First of all, Johnny Ogden, a big congratulations on the 3rd. I mean, we felt like you had the pace for 2nd, but a small mistake ends up being all the way down in 3rd, which isn't that bad at all, really, is it?
No, it's not bad at all. I mean, like you said, I made too many mistakes to be anywhere higher than 3rd. But I mean, well done to you two in the Beamers, Oliver and Jack. Both of those in that car is just so difficult to keep up with, especially Jack. I mean, Oliver, I was struggling as well, but you guys are just unreal.
It is very impressive. It really is to try and catch up to them, but. You did a good job. I mean, Johnny, we mentioned in qualifying that you looked like you had the pace in certain parts of the circuit, didn't you? And that Mercedes seemed to have a big straight line speed, and it was really entertaining between you and Oliver in the early stages.
Yeah, no, I think me and Oliver had a good fight. I mean, I definitely, being with these guys, I had to really, really get my elbows out, like big time, because there was just no way. As soon as Oliver got past me, which I was kind of hoping for, like, a little, like, to latch on. I just knew it was going to be difficult to get back past, so I just had to make my car as wide as possible, really. But it just wasn't enough in the end.
Well, it was very entertaining from our perspective, but yeah, you're right. It's sort of quite nice to see you at the sharp end. I didn't get a chance to see you, to speak to you, sorry, earlier on. I heard you talking about racing in the Philippines, though. We were wondering during the race, how big is the motorsport scene over in the Philippines? Because it's not something you really hear of.
It's getting bigger over there. I mean, I say that, I hadn't really heard of it too much either until I got invited. But you have Bianca from McLaren's F1 Academy. She's from the Philippines. So she's making a big dent there as well. But yeah, it's getting bigger there. It's more of a stepping stone into racing in Asia in a grand total, a grand scheme of things. But that was just kind of like the first step, if you know what I mean.
Well, it sounds like a very exciting step, that's for sure. Johnny, a big congratulations for the 3rd place. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go? Well,
big shout out to Jack and Oliver. Thanks you for the fun race. I mean, more Oliver than Jack. And also a big shout out to the guys on the car. So that's Phoenix Sim Racing, Bar 11, Renegade, and also Late Night Coffee. And a big thank you to you guys for hosting the racing and doing such a great job in the commentary.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's always nice to be thanked at the end there, Jonathan. Johnny, well done, and we'll potentially, will we be seeing you in the Cupras?
Yeah, I'll be in the Cupras, well, hopefully for the whole thing. just depends on work, unfortunately. But I hope so. I hope I'll be there for the whole thing, and I hope I'll be just as competitive as I was today.
Absolutely. No, fingers crossed for you, and good luck for the practices and everything.
Thank you very much.
Right, that was Johnny Ogden, third place. Tell you that Scott Bugner is going to have a chat to our runner-up, and it's Oliver Gibson.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Oliver. I've just got my Spotify ready to see what lyrics we're going to be hearing from you in this commentary. Under some pressure from Johnny for the first kind of half of the race. Did you feel the pressure? Did you feel like you kind of had it under control, or were you looking in your mirrors quite often?
Well, you just set me up there for a lyric. I was going to say, felt a bit under pressure.
Oh, God. There we go.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, I was definitely feeling the pressure with Johnny. I mean, fantastic racing because, it was hard, but very fair and very clean. So exactly what you want. And I was a bit scared on the pit exit after the pit stops because I didn't know whether, I should cut inside, switch back, or just hold it around the outside. I was like, I'm just going to brake as late as I can, hold it around the outside, and it worked. In the second stint, though, I don't know what happened. Just the car felt rubbish, absolutely rubbish. So if the gap was the same as it was in stint 1, I don't think I would have held on. So just obviously unlucky with the spin from Johnny, but it helped me, so I can't really complain.
No, it's good. I say it put on a good show for us anyway. What I was going to say was, did you? Well, you answered my next question because I was going to say once you kind of got the gap from Johnny, did you feel like you could have put your head down and sort of gained a bit on time on Jack, or was it just kind of settle for second, get the points, and go to the next round?
Yeah, it was exactly the second part. Just keep it clean, bring it home, sort of thing. So I hoped that the pace would have been a bit better, but I was stuck in the 207s, and I wasn't getting out of them. So I would have preferred a bit more pace. Maybe that's something I need to sort of look at for the next round. I got a long time to look for it because obviously we've got the Cupras next for 8 weeks. So I do need to look at that. But yeah, the car just didn't feel right at all. I mean, it's the first stint towards the end, it won't feel right because tyre wear and all of that. But second stint, from the moment I came out of the pits, something was up. So obviously it's sim racing, it's probably just me, but I don't know, just didn't have the pace at the end. But no chance I was catching Jack because he was flying.
He was very quick. Just the last question really. Did you feel like, obviously you did the undercut on Johnny because you put his first from memory. Did you feel like you'd have gained a bit more time out of that, or were you quite surprised to come across the start line and see Johnny's car at the pit exit where you had to obviously do that pretty decent move around the outside? But did you feel like you'd have maybe overtaken him on the undercut?
I thought I would have had a bit more of a gap because obviously the undercut you're on fresher tyres. But I noticed in quali and through practice that I don't know if it was just me, but it felt like the car struggled to get the tyres up to temperature. It felt like it took a lap or two to get roughly around the right temperature. Even then, it's probably not at its peak. So the outlap was just a bit scruffy. Obviously, the cold tyres, I had to brake earlier and just had to go a bit slower, really. And I thought the gap would have been bigger, but I'm very happy that it wasn't, because if I hadn't have been ahead, it would have been a different story.
Absolutely, but it was a very good move around the outside. It was a nice, clean move, and you got good traction on the exit. So well done, and congratulations on the second. And any shout outs before I let you go?
Well, shout out to you guys, I guess, because I don't think I ever shout out the commentators.
That's the correct answer, Oliver.
Yep. We'll get you on the car for the next one, don't worry. We'll have VRRC commentators as a sponsor. But yeah, shout out to you guys, because I've shouted out many people in the last few weeks. So shout out to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Oliver. Congratulations on second place. We're going to move over to who we didn't get a chance to speak to earlier on, but I mean, we've heard him a lot before. Jack Smith, congratulations on the race win. You ended up having, we brought you into a chat and you lost a second, but you ended up winning that race by 24 seconds. In the end, it was fairly easy for you, that one.
Yeah, it was all right. I was a bit I said that in an interview mid-race, didn't I? About Jonathan coming back at me. So I was like, oh man, that's gonna be tough for the rest of the race. But no, he sort of stayed at the same pace, and I managed to find a bit more. So we pulled a gap, and yeah, I just kept it at a consistent pace and just kept going. And then obviously pulled into an interview, lost a little bit, but yeah, that's I seem to be really bad at multitasking. So yeah, that's something I need to work on then, I guess.
It's all good practice. It's all good practice. Your car, in the end, I mean, we only saw you once, actually, after the interview, I'll be honest. There was entertaining action everywhere else, but we saw you once as you were catching up to a battle we were focusing on, and we went on board with you. Your car looked on rails, Jack. I mean, did it feel just as good at the end as it did at the beginning?
It might have looked on rails, but it definitely wasn't. I'm same with Ollie. The car felt a bit. I don't know. The first 10 laps of a stint felt alright. Minus like the 2 to get the tires up. But yeah, so that 8-lap window is like perfect. The car, it felt like quali mode, and it was great. And then all of a sudden the rears just go, and it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to do something here. So I ended up going up a TC mode and like as the stint went on, just up in the T. I think I got up to 7 at some point, like because the rears were just struggling, moving bias like backwards, so that the front didn't just push on under braking. And yeah, there's loads I was changing mid stint. So yeah, it might have looked on rails, but I was adjusting so much throughout that race, and I was making sure that I didn't get oversteer or anything. And yeah, I'm just praying the back markers didn't. I don't know, making sure nothing happened between me and the back markers. So yeah, just watching track limits because I was on 3 out of 3 near the end there, so I was a little bit worried, but yeah, we got through it.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how many people got away with track limits, to be honest, but because it did look a little bit questionable out there. But I mean, you were also going for some lunges towards the end and trying to get a car through the people. You didn't want to lose any time getting through the traffic, did you?
No, speaking of that, actually, it seems to be a recurring thing with Well and lapping Josh Martin, but every time I've got behind Josh Martin, he spins out. Every single time I'm going to lap.
That's the fear you strike into people, Jack.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think so. He just hit the curb a bit weird. It's just like a coincidence, but yeah. I mean, if you guys think like that, then yeah, but maybe. I don't know. I never seen myself in the mirror, so I don't know what that was like.
No, to be fair, Josh had a few unfortunate moments today, which is a bit of a shame because he did quite a good recovery drive and then ended up falling over himself again, unfortunately. But no, it's very impressive from yourself. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out first of all to my girlfriend who's next to me. She was being race engineer for the last like 20 minutes of that race. Just telling me like gaps and all that. So yeah, that was nice. But yeah, shout out to my mum, well, all my family really. Shout out to Dave who was watching, sent me a message like straight after the race saying like superb drive and
Kempton.
all this. So yeah, Dave Kempton, yeah, he was watching. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to all the sponsors on the car, Hop Cabin Lee. Obviously, you know where that is now. Just off the M62, junction 37.
We know.
Yeah.
Not east of Hull, west.
Not east of Hull. Don't do that. Yeah. So you don't want to go underwater. So west of Hull, down the M62. So. But yeah, shout out to everyone on the car. And yeah, shout out to my dad, all my family abroad as well. So yeah, shout out to them, and shout out to you guys for sure for doing a massively great job on the stream. So you guys always nail it. So that's why we all want the stream back for the Cupras. So
yes, it's there with Richard John Neal as our lead comms. So looking forward to that.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Well, big congratulations, Jack, and I'm sure be speaking to you and hearing from you over the course of the Cupras.
I hope so. We're gonna go with the front wheel drive, so yeah, we'll put some laps in for sure.
We will. I can't wait for it. Can't wait. Good luck and congratulations.
Cheers, Jack. Thank you very much.
Right, we move on after driver interviews to Fuji Speedway, but of course this is in about 9 weeks' time, so. Don't get it confused when you tune in next week and we see that we're not in GT3s and we're not at Fuji Speedway. This will be the penultimate round and it'll be on the 4th of September, which I mean feels like a long way away, but actually when you realise we're in June, it's really not that.
July,
that one. Oh, you know what I mean. I'm tired. A big thank you to everybody tuned in and supported. And also, to be honest, this is the final evening that I have as a main VRRC commentator. I'm stepping away, so you will have Richard John Neal for the foreseeable as your lead, which will be nice. I'll step back in whenever's sort of needed, or if you need cover, or just an extra person here, there, and everywhere. I'll be back. But it's been an absolute honour. I've been on the VRRC for 3 years, back in the League of Champions and the Academy days, if anybody is still around who was from them. And so, yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you very much to Rich for getting me involved, for getting me involved for so long. Thank you to everybody, all the broadcasters we've had over the years, all the different commentators we've had over the years, and everybody at home who's been so accommodating in all the races we're putting on. A hell of a show over the last couple of years as well. So it's been an absolute honour, and I'm sure Richard John Neal will provide some fresh blood and a bit of new enthusiasm and a slightly different style as well. I'm sure it'll be really exciting to tune in and listen as a punter rather than a commentator for that one. So yeah, big thank you. Thank you tonight though for Scott. Scott has been you in for the World Endurance League, and hopefully we'll have you in another time. And Rich as well for jumping in with your anecdotes. Is there anything either of you, Brad, not Brad, I don't know why I keep calling you Brad. Scott, we'll start with you. Anything you'd like to say before we let you go?
Yeah, just a big thank you to you as well. Obviously, I've been racing with VRRC for probably nearly 2 years now, and you know the reason why we all like to watch our racing back is the commentary is good, and it keeps us wanting to come back and do more, and it's nice to have real life commentators as well who I watch on YouTube and listen to you and Andy and Richard on TV and stuff like that, and to be able to have commentators like you commentating on our sim racing, I think is an absolute pleasure, and thank you for taking time to do it.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's thank you for the kind words. It's very kind of you. Rich, I'm not looking forward to compliments or anything like that. You can float them in there if you want. But anything you'd like to say about the World Endurance League and looking forward to the Coopers?
No, I don't think we need to say anything more about WAL and Coopers. All I've got to say to you, Jack, is I love you and thank you.
I'll take it. I'll happily take it. Right. Thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and all that sort of rubbish that you normally hear on these things now. We'll be back next week with Richard John Neal at the helm for Cooper Cup action. See you later.
Between the two of them, the inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved, and that's Whitehead and Coates.